मे बी आई जस्ट वेट 1 मिनट मोर, 1 मिनट और रुकते हैं और फिर शुरू करते हैं. हम 1 मिनट और रुकते हैं. वील वेट फॉर अबाउट अ मिनट मोर इन केस देर आर मोर पीपल ज्वाइनिंग, एंड वील स्टार्ट आफ्टर अ मिनट. 1 मिनट और देते हैं जैसे ताकि और लोग जुड़ जाएं, और लगभग 1 मिनट बाद हम शुरू करेंगे. ठीक है, हम शुरू करते हैं. क्योंकि शुरुआत में भी जो मैं थोड़ा बहुत कहूँगा उसमें भी थोड़ा समय लगेगा. सभी को बहुत बहुत स्वागत है और नमस्ते. आज की इस सत्र में. आज की ये कार्यक्रम अंग्रेजी और हिंदी दोनों में होगी. और अगर वक्ता अंग्रेजी में बोलेंगे तो बाद में हिंदी में अनुवाद होगा, और अगर हिंदी में अपनी बात रखेंगे तो बाद में अंग्रेजी में अनुवाद करेंगे. वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू एवरीवन टुडे to this session on tenant farmers. Today's session will be in both English and Hindi. If the speaker speaks in English, then we'll have a brief translation into Hindi in the end. And if the speaker speaks in Hindi, then we will briefly translate into English at the end. Today's webinar is organized by the Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture. The acronym is ASHA, and this is a volunteer-driven nationwide informal network of organizations that came together in 2010. आज का ये कार्यक्रम आशा द्वारा आयोजित किया गया है. आशा एक अभियान है जिसमें लगभग 400 संगठन जुड़े हैं, और पूरे भारत से अलग अलग जगह में लोग इसमें जुड़े हैं, और 2010 से ये काम कर रहा है. और आज का जो मुद्दा है, लीज पे जो किसान जमीन को लीज पर लेकर खेती करते हैं, उनके क्या समस्या है, और उससे एक कदम आगे बढ़ते हुए इसके क्या हल हो सकते हैं, इस पे हम आज चर्चा करेंगे. Today's issue is on tenant farmers, and the idea is not just to see, is also to recognize the problems that they're facing, and also try and understand what possible solutions there can be to those problems. The issue of tenant farmers is one of acute distress. Agriculture as it is, farmers itself don't have a very good deal. They have a fairly raw deal in the present system. And tenant farmers are even worse off than landholding farmers. And this is an issue that is present in many parts of India. And a large, a majority of the suicides that we hear of, farmer suicides, are actually by tenant farmers. तो ऐसे जो बटाईदार किसान हैं या जो किसान जमीन को लीज लेकर खेती करते हैं, उनकी दिशा उन किसानों के मुकाबले और भी बुरा है जिनके पास जमीन है। वैसे जो जिन किसान के पास अपने नाम में जमीन है उनका भी हाल अच्छा नहीं है, लेकिन बटाईदार या वो किसान जो लीज पे जमीन लेते हैं उनका तो और भी बुरा हाल है। और ऐसे किसान हम पूरे देश में देखते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ एक ही राज्य में, एक दो राज्य में है, अलग अलग जगह, अलग अलग राज्यों में ऐसे किसान हमें मिलेंगे। और जो किसान आत्महत्या की भी खबर हम बार बार सुनते रहते हैं, तो उसमें भी अगर देखें तो अधिकतर ऐसे किसान हैं जो बटाईदार हैं या जो लीज पे लेके खेती कर रहे हैं, और इनको एक तरीके से अनदेखा किया जाता है। जैसे महिला किसानों के साथ भी हम देखते हैं, उनके संदर्भ में भी हम सिर्फ शब्द किसान इस्तेमाल करते हैं, उसमें महिला किसान भी हैं, बटाईदार किसान भी हैं, लेकिन उनके बारे में जब हम ये शब्द सुनते हैं किसान, तो उनके बारे में सोचते नहीं हैं, वो एक तरीके से अनदेखा रहते हैं। तो जैसे महिला किसान के संदर्भ में तो पितृसत्ता के वजह से उनके नाम में जमीन नहीं होता है। वैसे अगर हम बटाईदार किसान या जो किसान लीज पे लेके खेती करते हैं उनके बारे में अगर हम सोचे, तो कई दशक पहले ऐसा हुआ था कि कुछ जगह में, कुछ राज्यों में लोगों के नाम पे भूमि दी गई, उनको अपने नाम में जमीन मिला था, लेकिन जिन कानूनों के वजह से उनको जमीन मिला उस वक्त, उन्हीं कानूनों के वजह से आज ये स्थिति है कि जो किसान लीज पे जमीन लेते हैं उनको एक औपचारिक तरीके से ये लीज करने में जिनके नाम पे जमीन है वो डरते हैं। तो जो कानून पहले उनको उनके लाभ में था, आज उन्हीं कानूनों के वजह से एक तरीके से उनको लाभ नहीं मिल पा रहा है। So when we consider the issue of tenancy in farming, tenant farmers are often very invisible. When we use the word farmer, we don't think of tenant farmers, just like the case of women farmers. When one uses the word farmer, the image that comes to mind typically is that of a male farmer. So in the case of women farmers, it is because of patriarchy that they do not get to have land ownership in their name. Whereas if one considers the issue of tenant farmers, then the same land reforms that some decades ago helped farmers, landless farmers in some areas get land in their name, it is due to those laws and due to a fear that if there is some formal tenancy, then there is a chance that they will lose land. As a result, the landowning person is often afraid to formally get into a tenancy agreement with a farmer. And so that is ironically, one of the reasons that tenant farmers have become invisible today. However, in today's discussion, we will not focus on land rights of tenant farmers. It is a very important issue, and in the long term, it is probably one of the things that is necessary to help tenant farmers get their rights. But what we will be considering today is more till the time that any such thing can happen, what can be done in the immediate context to help tenant farmers. And this is what the focus of today's discussion will be. तो आज की चर्चा में हम इस बात पे ज्यादा चर्चा नहीं करेंगे कि जो किसान जमीन लीज पे लेके कर रहे हैं या जो बटाईदार किसान हैं, उनको अपने नाम में जमीन कैसे मिले या उनके नाम में पट्टे का हक कैसे हो। ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दा है, इसको बिल्कुल नकारा नहीं जा रहा है, लेकिन आज की परिस्थिति ऐसे नहीं है कि ये जल्द ऐसे कुछ हो पाए। तो आज का जो चर्चा है इसमें हम ज्यादा इस चीज पे चर्चा करना चाहेंगे कि ऐसे किसानों को आज के संदर्भ में या आज की परिस्थिति में ऐसे हम क्या कर सकते हैं ताकि उनको अभी कुछ लाभ मिले, अभी उनको अपने हक मिले, या जो सरकारी योजना है जिसमें उनको लाभ नहीं मिल रहा है उनको इन सरकारी योजनाओं में कैसे जोड़ा जाए। इन चीजों पे आज की चर्चा पे हम ज्यादा बातचीत करेंगे। तो ये आज का चर्चा जो है कम से कम मान के चलिए 2.5 घंटे तो चलेगा, मतलब लगभग 7:30 बजे तक तो ये चर्चा चलेगी। और पहले कुछ जो हमारे वक्ता हैं वो अपनी बात रखेंगे, लेकिन उसके बाद हम चाहेंगे कि थोड़ी और लोग भी जो आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं वो भी अभी अपनी बात रखें अलग अलग जगह से। तो उसके लिए भी हम आखिर में थोड़ा समय रखे हैं। So the format that we will be following today is that initially a few speakers will make their opening remarks, and after that we will have a discussion in the end where the all the other participants who have joined us can also share their views. And we expect that this will go on for at least 2.5 hours. So at least till 7:30, we expect that this will carry on. And with these opening remarks, let us begin right away. Our first speaker is Kirankumar Vissa. He is associated with ASHA as well as Rythu Swaraj Vedika, and they have done extensive work with tenant farmers, and Kiran will provide an overview of what the situation is for tenant farmers. तो आज हमारे पहले वक्ता किरण कुमार विस्सा हैं। वो आशा और रैतु स्वराज वेदिका से जुड़े हैं, और रैतु स्वराज वेदिका ने लीज पे जो किसान खेती करते हैं, बटाईदार किसान के मुद्दे पे बहुत काम किया है, और शुरुआत में ये अपनी बात रखेंगे। किरण।
Thank you, Nachiket. Thank you. Sabhi ko namaskar. Nachiket, before I start, I had sent you a message with Ram Pratap ji's contact number. I've also messaged him. I think he must have joined already, but just coordinate so that he can.
He is there and he's a co-host already.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining this important discussion. And like Nachiket said, I will be sharing a presentation about the tenant farmer situation, sharing about the overall situation in the country, as well as some of the specifics regarding Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, where we've been directly working. And the hope with this webinar is to also initiate a discussion in various states about the situation of tenant farmers there and possible solutions. So the focus would be more on what are the roadblocks to identification and inclusion of tenant farmers, and how they could be overcome, and what kind of political will and mobilization is required for that. So we are hoping that this is this is first in maybe a series of actions that we can take to take this agenda forward. So I will do a brief thing in Hindi, of whatever I speak. I hope that is sufficient. मैं थोड़ा सा जो भी मैं कह रहा हूँ उसको हिंदी में भी कहने की कोशिश करूंगा, लेकिन समय को दृष्टि में रखते हुए शायद वो थोड़ा ब्रीफ होगा। मैं कह रहा था कि मैं आज ये जो बटाईदार किसान और ठेके पे लीज पे खेत लेके जो खेती करते हैं, उनकी जो समस्याएं हैं, और जो वो इस तबके के किसान पूरी तरह से कैसे गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट सिस्टम, सरकारी जो भी प्रणाली है उससे बाहर हैं, उससे क्या क्या समस्याएं पैदा हो रही हैं और उसका हल क्या हो सकता है, और उसका हल निकालने में अलग अलग राज्यों में क्या एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, जहाँ पे भी इस पे कुछ काम हुआ है, और अलग अलग राज्यों के लोग भी यहाँ पे जुड़े हैं, और जो रिसर्चर्स और एकेडमिक्स इसके ऊपर स्टडी करने वाले भी जुड़े हैं, और जमीन स्तर पे काम करने वाले भी जुड़े हैं। तो हमारी आशा है कि ये जो हम ये मीटिंग आज कर रहे हैं, ये एक शुरुआत है। उसके बाद में हम फॉलो अप भी कर सकते हैं अलग अलग राज्यों में क्या हो सकता है इसके ऊपर। तो मैं अपना प्रेजेंटेशन शेयर करना शुरू करूंगा। Right. So reaching the real cultivators is what we are trying to talk about. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my presentation moving. Right. So why this is an urgent issue? I mean, I think that all of us are aware of it, but just to re-emphasize, there are basically crores of tenant farmer and sharecropper households who are cultivating leased land, and their number is increasing. I'll share some of the figures later. And these are also mostly from very socially and economically vulnerable sections. Socially caste-wise, they're from SC, ST, BC, OBC communities. And mostly they are marginal farmers owning less than 2.5 acres of land or completely landless. So in that sense, basically, historically, they've already faced an injustice in terms of land ownership itself. The fact that they've ended up with very small land holdings as well, or landless. Now, on top of that, they are also facing further injustice because whatever support systems the government is putting in place to make agriculture viable, and we know that without such support systems, agriculture would be more or less impossible. Even with such support systems, farmers are struggling. So these farmers who are excluded from such support systems would be struggling even more. And in fact, they are facing the brunt of the agrarian crisis in states such as AP and Telangana, where we've actually done study on this. 75% of farm suicides are by tenant farmers. This is something that we've studied both in AP and Telangana, and we suspect that in many other states also, similar situation must be prevailing. And the fact that increasingly, direct benefit transfer schemes such as PM Kisan, Rythu Bandhu, and so on are becoming more popular. These are all targeted mostly at the people who have patta on their land. Therefore, there is further exclusion of the tenant farmers. I mean, if you just look at imagine a single tenant farmer, not only are they facing the adverse economic situation that regular farmers, the landowning farmers, are facing, that they're not getting sufficient price for their produce, so they're not able to make profit and so on. They also have to pay a land lease price to the landowner. So that's additional burden. Secondly, because they don't get crop loans from the bank, they have to depend on the money lenders or even input dealers to get credit, so at high interest rate. And because they're locked in with these dealers and money lenders, often they're not even able to sell their produce for a better price because they have to sell it back to the same dealer who has lent them the loans. So therefore, they are actually disadvantaged 3 times over. So you can imagine their plight even with relative to other small landowning farmers. तो हम इसलिए ये चर्चा कर रहे हैं, इसलिए ये बहुत आवश्यक चीज है, क्योंकि हमारे देश में करोड़ों ऐसे टेनेंट फार्मर्स, बटाईदार, लीज पे खेती करने वाले किसान हैं, और उनका संख्या भी बढ़ रही है, और वो ज्यादातर जो मार्जिनल सेक्शंस होते हैं, SC, ST, OBC कम्युनिटी से होते हैं, उनके पास जमीन या तो बहुत थोड़ी सी होती है, 1 या 2 एकड़ से कम, या पूरे भूमिहीन किसान होते हैं। तो वो पहले से ही हिस्टोरिकली चारित्रिक रूप से अन्याय झेल रहे हैं, क्योंकि जमीन बहुत कम है उनके पास। और अभी के स्थिति में जो भी सरकारी प्रणाली है जिसके ऊपर सभी किसान निर्भर हैं, जैसे कम इंटरेस्ट पे लोन मिलना, बैंक का लोन मिलना, क्रॉप इंश्योरेंस हो सकता है, अगर कुछ प्रकृति की आपत्ति होती है तब उनको कॉम्पेंसेशन, मुआवजा मिलना होता है, ये सब से भी वो एक्सक्लूडेड हैं। तो जो ये किसान खुदकुशी कर रहे हैं, जो किसान बहुत ही बुरी स्थिति में है देश भर में, उनमें से ये बटाईदार और टेनेंट फार्मर्स का सिचुएशन बहुत ही खराब है। हम जो आंध्र प्रदेश और तेलंगाना में स्टडी किए हैं, उसमें साफ ये सामने आया है कि 75% यानी कि 4 में से 3 लोग जो किसान आत्महत्या करते हैं, वो बटाईदार किसान होते हैं, वो टेनेंट फार्मर्स होते हैं। और जबकि PM किसान और या अलग-अलग राज्यों में जैसे రైతు बंधु जैसे स्कीम्स इंट्रोड्यूस हो रहे हैं, ये सब में भी सिर्फ जमीन का पट्टा जिनके हाथ में होता है, उनको ही मिलने के लिए ये डिजाइन कर रहे हैं स्कीम सब। तो इसमें और ज्यादा नुकसान इन किसानों का हो रहा है। तो इसीलिए ये बहुत ही आवश्यक चीज है जिसके ऊपर काम करना बहुत जरूरी है। एक तरह से हम आंकड़े और इसके बारे में बात करेंगे, लेकिन थोड़ा सा इसका चित्र हमारे सामने हो, इसलिए 2-3 एग्जांपल्स मैं आपके सामने रख रहा हूं जहां पे हम काम कर रहे हैं। जो रैतु बंधु का स्कीम है, जिसके अंदर हर एकड़ का 10,000 रुपए एक साल के लिए तेलंगाना सरकार दे रही है। इसके ऊपर बहुत ही देश भर में चर्चा है, बहुत ही ये होता है कि इतना अच्छा स्कीम है और ये सब, लेकिन ये स्कीम लॉन्च करने का महीना जो होता है, उसी महीने में तेलंगाना के एक किसान ने आत्महत्या करते हुए ये चीफ मिनिस्टर को लेटर लिखे थे कि 50% of farmers are tenant farmers, and you are paying this 4,000 rupees only. I'm sorry, there seems to be some technical issue. I'll try to skip that. This farmer actually, committed suicide publicly in Hyderabad, coming to the capital city, saying that 50% of the farmers in Telangana are tenant farmers, and you have excluded them from all this benefit. You are treating tenant farmers as worse than dogs. And if you look at the hello, is my screen visible now?
Yes, yes.
Nachiket?
Yes.
Okay, right. I will proceed. So that was one example, and it ties in with the fact that the DBT schemes are excluding the tenant farmers. And if you look at the village level, for example, this village, which we had done a study and then it got covered in the newspaper also. In a single village, we find that out of the 1420 acres of cultivable land in that village, it's owned by 435 pattadars, but there are 125 tenant farmers there, and almost 44% of the land in this village is leased by these tenant farmers. And when they faced a problem, they were all cotton farmers mostly. When they faced a problem with the bollworm attack, that is when we had done a study in this village. What we found is that they had faced a total loss of 1.4 crore rupees in just that one season, these 125 farmers. But out of that, 90 lakhs was just the land rent. So that's basically the kind of impact that you see in village after village, where the cultivation is being done by tenant farmers. So I would say let's keep that picture in mind, when we look at the urgency of the situation. And this is the study that I was referring to, where we studied about 700 farmer suicide cases, out of which 75% were tenant farmers. But now the situation nationwide, right? Recently, the 77th round NSSO data has been released. This is from 2018-19, and this table basically gives the extent of tenant holdings in each state. यानी कि जो भी जमीन लोगों के पास है, जो खेती कर रहे हैं किसान के हाउस होल्ड्स हैं, उनमें से कितने होल्डिंग्स ऐसे हैं जो लीज पे लिए गए हैं। तो वो राज्य के हिसाब से देखें तो आंध्र प्रदेश सबसे ज्यादा है 42.4%, ओडिशा में 39% है, वेस्ट बंगाल में 29.5% है। ऐसे देश भर में अगर देखें तो 17.3% है जो परसेंटेज ऑफ टेनेंट लैंड होल्डिंग्स है। और अपने राज्य का भी आप देख सकते हैं। But even these figures are actually big underestimates. So I'll just go into that also. But first, if we look at the how the picture is changing over the last few years, what we have found is that especially over the last 15 to 20 years, पिछले 15-20 साल में ये लीज पे खेती करने वाले किसान, बटाईदार किसान, उनकी संख्या बहुत ही ज्यादा बढ़ रही है। जो पिछले 16 साल का डिफरेंस अगर आप देखें तो हर एक राज्य में बढ़ रहा है। कुछ राज्यों में बहुत ही ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, जैसे आंध्र प्रदेश में आप देख सकते हैं दूसरा कॉलम और तीसरा कॉलम में डिफरेंस जो है कुछ राज्यों में थोड़ा सा कम है, फिर भी वो बढ़ रहा है. So that is the picture, the growing tendency across the country. And also the extent of land lease in all these, in the NSSO data is also very underestimated, because if we compare it with specific studies which are done in different places, like in Uttar Pradesh, Council for Social Development had done a study in 2013 where they showed that in 8 districts where they did the study, 28% of the land is fully leased in and 43.8% is partially leased in. That means about 70% of the land, actually cultivated land, is leased land. Andhra Pradesh, also the government appointed Radhakrishna committee brought out a similar situation, so about 72%. Punjab may about 40%. Telangana, it's at least 25 to 30%. So we are seeing that actually the picture even projected by the NSSO data is an underestimate. So basically, if we look at the larger picture, what is happening is that on the one hand, there is injustice to the cultivators who are really cultivating the land, who are taking the risk to take the land on lease, pay the lease amount, as well as invest into the cultivation. But it is also a loot of public finance, because tens of thousands of crores are being spent on various schemes which are meant to promote agriculture, which are meant to make agriculture more viable, but much of this money is actually not going to the real cultivator, but going to non-cultivators just because they have a land patta. So this is particularly true in terms of the DBT schemes like PM Kisan or Rythu Bandhu that I was saying in Telangana. In some states like Andhra Pradesh and Odisha, they have included tenant farmers also in their cash support scheme. But again, we'll go into those details a little while later. But especially want to highlight the PM Kisan scheme, for example. Initially, when they announced the scheme, they said it'll go to farmers who own less than 5 acres of land, but some amount of land should be there on their name. Now it has been changed. The guidelines were changed to include all farmers. That means it has now been expanded to large farmers, but on the other hand, they didn't take any measure to include landless tenant farmers or agricultural workers in the scheme. So this is the general picture that we see. And Telangana government particularly spends about 15,000 crores on Rythu Bandhu. About 4,000 crores of this from a state budget goes to non-cultivators. And many of the schemes also, like crop loans, low interest crop loans and so on, tens of thousands of crores have been being spent. And then there are second order effects also, like on the one hand, they don't get the crop loans. On the other hand, again, thousands of crores go into loan waivers by the government. And once again, these tenant farmers who are only dependent on private loans, they don't get any benefit from it. And these days, even the crop procurement in the name of technology, automatic transfers into the bank accounts and so on. Crop procurement is also often tied to land patta, and the patta holder's bank account gets the credit, and then the tenant farmer once again has to run behind the owner to get the money even for the crop that they have grown. So this is basically the situation. And now with talk of more subsidies such as the fertilizer subsidy also converted into DBT, situation becomes even worse. तो इसमें हम ये कह रहे हैं कि ये टेनेंट फार्मर्स बटाईदार को आइडेंटिफाई ना करना और स्कीम्स प्रणाली से उनको बाहर रखना, एक तरफ वो उनके साथ बहुत ही अन्याय हो रहा है, और दूसरे तरफ जो सरकार के राशि जो है, उनके बजट में पैसे जो हैं, जो पब्लिक का पैसा है, वो गलत जगह पे पहुंच रहा है. उसको पहुंचना है जो भी खेती कर रहे हैं उनके पास, लेकिन वो सिर्फ लैंड ओनर्स के पास पहुंच रहा है. और ये जो क्रॉप लोन्स हो सकते हैं, इंश्योरेंस है, फसल बीमा है, मुआवजा हो सकता है, और ये पीएम किसान जैसे स्कीम है. पीएम किसान स्कीम में पहले उसको 5 एकड़ से कम जमीन होने वाले किसानों के लिए रखा था, उसको अब एक्सपैंड करके बड़े किसानों को भी दे रहे हैं. लेकिन जो भूमिहीन किसान है या खेतीहर मजदूर है, उनको इंक्लूड नहीं किया गया है, वो जो 6,000 रुपए दे रहे हैं. तो ये सिचुएशन हमारे सामने है. तो अभी अगर टेनेंट फार्मर्स को भी इंक्लूड करना है, तो उसके क्या रोड ब्लॉक हैं, इसके क्या समस्याएं हैं. सबसे ज्यादा हम ये कह सकते हैं कि lack of political will from the governments and political system, जो उनके पास ये निबद्धता नहीं है कि वो इस समस्या का हल करें, क्योंकि जहां पे भी सरकारें थोड़ी कोशिश की है इस समस्या को हल करने में, वो कुछ हद तक कामयाब भी रहे हैं, लेकिन ज्यादा से ज्यादा राज्य सरकार और खास करके केंद्र सरकार इसके ऊपर बिल्कुल नजर नहीं डाल रही है। वो सबसे बड़ी समस्या है। और अगर हम पिछले 50-60 साल से देखें, तो पहले जो 1950s में जो टेनेंट फार्मर्स के लिए जो लॉस लाए गए हैं, टेनेंसी का कानून जो लाए गए हैं, उसमें ये था कि हर एक साल उस जमीन पे जो कल्टीवेट कर रहे हैं उनका नाम वो रेवेन्यू रिकॉर्ड्स में आना चाहिए, लेकिन जो लैंड ओनर्स हैं, जमींदार हैं, वो इसको ना होने दिए हैं, एंड पीपल, आई मीन लैंड ओनर्स हैव सक्सेसफुली स्कटल्ड this whole scheme of actually recording the tenants or cultivators name into the revenue records. Over the last 40 years, it's not happening. And what landowners say is that they fear that the leased land will go, I mean, they will lose their land if they allow any written acknowledgement of the leasing. And some of the earlier tenancy acts also have certain provisions which, if a tenant farmer leases a land for more than 6 years, then they get certain partial rights. I mean, not that they will own the land, but they get certain partial rights that they can't be simply evicted. Or if the landowner wants to sell the land, then the tenant farmer should get the first right to purchase the land. And there are certain restrictions like that. And these are also cited by the landowners for not allowing the tenant farmer's name to be recorded. So now that they are not recorded in the revenue records, if the government tries to bring in some other system of identifying them, the landowners are also resisting that, because they have got used to getting other benefits also, like interest-free crop loans, disaster compensation, these DBT schemes, and so on. So now they are even more resistant to such identification. And there is no political commitment from the governments to do that, because often even the local political leaders to state level political leaders are all falling in this class of landowners who are not doing cultivation themselves but leasing their land to others. So that lies at the bottom of this whole problem and the situation. तो इनका रिकॉग्निशन ना होने में सबसे बड़ा यह है कि जो जमीन के ओनर्स हैं, वो ये पुराने टेनेंसी का कानून है उसको सही तरह से अमल करने से रोक दिए हैं, और वो कानून 40-50 साल से टेनेंट फार्मर का रिकॉर्ड नहीं कर रहे हैं। जो गिरदावरी में उनको करना होता है या अडंगल में उनको करना होता है, वो नहीं कर रहे हैं। और अभी उनके पास और ज्यादा बेनिफिट आ रहे हैं बहुत सारे स्कीम से, जैसे वो ना कल्टीवेट करते हुए भी क्रॉप लोन्स लेते हैं बैंक से, या मुआवजा उनको मिलता है, पीएम किसान मिलता है। तो वो बिल्कुल ये नहीं होने दे रहे हैं कि टेनेंट फार्मर्स का नेम रिकॉर्ड हो किसी भी तरह से। और ज्यादातर ये जमीन के मालिक जो होते हैं, ये सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज का यही सिचुएशन है कि लोकल लेवल पे भी जो ये जमीन के मालिक होते हैं वो ही पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स भी होते हैं। तो इसलिए उनके दबाव में आके जो भी थोड़ा बहुत ये कोशिश सरकार की तरफ से होती है, वो भी नहीं हो रहा है इनको इंक्लूड करने से। So now, what are the approaches for the inclusion of tenant farmers? Like I said, the original provision, which is there in almost every state, is that you record the cultivator's name in the a certain column in the revenue records every year. Once that is recorded, then the crop loan goes to that. Any tenant farmer can take a copy of that adangal or girdavari or whatever, and go to a bank and get a loan or get crop insurance and all that. But landowners have scuttled that successfully, and governments also have not been committed to that. So those are not being implemented for the past 40-50 years. Now, there are some new approaches which are kind of intermediate. So this is not to the extent of allowing the tenants' names to go into the land records, but have a parallel system, like Land Licensed Cultivators Act 2011 AP Telangana, and another new act which was brought in AP called the Crop Cultivator Rights Act. This is a creating legal mechanisms by which cultivators can be identified. So there is a process set in law as per the act by which the tenant farmers can apply and be identified as cultivators for that season or for that year. And once they get that identification card, then they are eligible for bank loans, they're eligible for crop insurance and all the other systems which are in place for the farmers. So this is one kind of mechanism, a legal mechanism to recognize tenant farmers. The other mechanism is, including them in the implementation of schemes. For example, the Kalia scheme in Odisha, which is a cash support scheme, they declared right from the announcement of the scheme that it would include tenant cultivators and sharecroppers. Therefore, they put in place a mechanism for doing that. Similarly, Kudumbashree program in Kerala, they have encouraged tenant farmers to do collective land leasing, which is mediated by the panchayat and the Kudumbashree system. And that way, the tenant farmers are getting land on lease and they're cultivating and making some income. The other thing is the Model Land Leasing Act, which was proposed by the Niti Aayog. I think Kavitha will talk a little more in detail about what are the limitations of that. And in Uttar Pradesh, for example, they just did one simple measure of changing the old tenancy law to quote unquote legalize land leasing. So in the old tenancy laws, often there was there were limits on whether land could be leased, in the first place. So only certain categories of people could lease lands or lease out lands. A certain category of people could lease in lands. So those provisions were changed. But apart from that, nothing else was done by the UP government. And we'll hear from Ram Pratapji whether that has really made any difference or not. So these are the different ways in which there are attempts to include tenant farmers. For the rest of 5 minutes or so, I will just share about the experience of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana in doing this thing through the legal mechanism. Then we will move on to the other stage. So the Land Licensed Cultivators Act was brought in Andhra Pradesh when it was a united state in 2011. Now it is in force in Telangana. In Andhra Pradesh also it was in force until 2019 when it was replaced by another act called the Crop Cultivators Rights Act. But basically the salient feature of this act is that the government will issue loan eligibility cards to lessee farmers. They're calling them lessee farmers or licensed cultivators. They've been careful not to use the word tenant farmers because there are existing tenancy acts whose provisions may be attracted. Therefore, they've created this new term called licensed cultivators and said that they will be issuing cards in the name of licensed cultivator with the provision. I mean, it is explicitly written on the card itself that this card does not give any rights on land ownership or any rights under the Tenancy Act, right? So it's for a limited purpose. And the limited purpose is that they will be eligible for crop loans, insurance, and all support systems. And how does the government identify these farmers? The basic thing is that the responsibility is on the government to identify. So as far as the tenant farmers are concerned, they can just fill a simple form to say that in this particular year, I'm cultivating so many acres, let's say 5 acres, which I'm leasing from this particular landowner, and give the survey number. And that form is sufficient from the tenant farmer side. And the important thing is that it does not require any written agreement between the tenant farmer and the landowner. And it does not require a signature of the landowner. I mean, this form does not require signature of the landowner. Now, once these forms are received, then the revenue officials, their responsibility is to do a simple verification through Gram Sabha. So they have to conduct Gram Sabhas at the village level and put up the list of all these farmers who have applied for LEC cards. And after a simple verification mechanism, they are supposed to approve these cards. And if there is an objection from the landowner that that they are denying that they are leasing this land and so on, they are supposed to verify what is the fact on the ground. So this is basically the mechanism. If we look at the performance of this act in AP and Telangana, in United AP, about 5.3 lakh. I mean, United AP, basically we are looking at up to 2013-14, when about 5.3 lakh tenant farmers got these LEC cards, out of which 58,000 were in the Telangana region, about 4.7 lakhs were in the Andhra Pradesh region. And after the state was bifurcated, in Telangana, actually the government was not committed to the recognition of tenant farmers. So therefore, in the first year, they actually didn't even implement the act. But after a lot of us brought pressure on the government, they started implementation of the act in 2015-16 and gave cards to about 44,000. But after that, they almost completely stopped the implementation of this act, despite a lot of pressure. We have a high court case going on this and so on. But the chief minister is very adamant not to recognize tenant farmers. So that's the situation in Telangana. Therefore, they are excluded from the Rythu Bandhu scheme also. In Andhra Pradesh, there is a somewhat better commitment towards issuing LEC cards. So in 2019, it reached a maximum of about 7.25 lakhs. 7.25 lakh tenant farmers got the cards, but the total number is upwards of 25 lakhs. So it is still a fraction, but a sizable fraction. But as far as getting bank loans using these cards is concerned, only about 1 lakh tenant farmers got personal crop loans using these cards. Some more got loans through JLG groups, which are joint liability groups. And they are also included in disaster compensation, crop insurance, and so on. तो आंध्र प्रदेश में ये लाइसेंस्ड कल्टिवेटर्स एक्ट का जो परफॉर्मेंस है उसके बारे में मैं ब्रीफली कह रहा था कि इसके अंदर प्रोविजन ये है कि कोई भी बटाईदार किसान या लीज पे लेके खेती करने वाले टेनेंट फार्मर ये फॉर्म, ये सिंपल फॉर्म 1 पेज का है जो भर सकते हैं, जिसमें इस साल के लिए हम मैं ये फलाना जमीन लीज पे लिया हूं, उसका सर्वे नंबर ये है, उसका जमीन का मालिक ये है, और मैं खेती कर रहा हूं, बस इतना ही इनको इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड करना है। और खास करके इसके ऊपर जमीन का मालिक जो होते हैं उनका सिग्नेचर की जरूरत नहीं है, और उनकी सम्मति की भी जरूरत नहीं है। तो वो फॉर्म लेने के बाद रेवेन्यू ऑफिशियल्स का जिम्मेदारी ये होती है कि वो गांव के स्तर पे ग्राम सभा रख के वो ये निर्धारित करें कि आपके गांव से ये 100 लोग या 150 लोग ये एलईसी कार्ड के लिए फॉर्म भरे हैं, ये सच में लीज पे खेती कर रहे हैं या नहीं, ये उनको निर्धारित करना पड़ता है गांव के स्तर पे। और ग्राम सभा में निर्धारित करने के बाद उनको एलईसी कार्ड इश्यू होता है, और एलईसी कार्ड के ऊपर उनको बैंक लोन्स मिल सकते हैं, क्रॉप इंश्योरेंस, फसल बीमा मिल सकती है, मुआवजा मिल सकता है, ये सब जो भी सरकार के स्कीम्स हैं। लेकिन उसपे साफ ये लिखा होता है कि एलईसी कार्ड मिलने से आपको जमीन पे कोई हक नहीं मिलता है, आप इसको लेके कोर्ट में जाके कोई जमीन के ऊपर कार्यवाही नहीं कर सकते हैं, वो वहां पे साफ लिखा होता है। तो ये एक लिमिटेड पर्पस के लिए वो है वो कार्ड। अगर इस कार्ड का जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का रिकॉर्ड देखें हम आंध्र प्रदेश और तेलंगाना में, लगभग यूनाइटेड आंध्र प्रदेश में 5 लाख से ज्यादा टेनेंट फार्मर्स को 2013 के साल तक मिले थे। उसके ऊपर 2 राज्य हो गए हैं, लेकिन तेलंगाना सरकार का इस कानून को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए कोई कमिटमेंट नहीं था उनके तरफ से, तो इसलिए बहुत ही कम कार्ड मिले हैं। एक साल में 46,000 कार्ड, 44,000 कार्ड मिले थे, लेकिन उसके बाद में कुछ नहीं मिला। रैतु बंधु में भी उनको नहीं ले रहे हैं। लेकिन आंध्र प्रदेश सरकार का और ज्यादा कमिटमेंट है, क्योंकि आंध्र प्रदेश में ये टेनेंट फार्मर्स का संख्या भी बहुत ज्यादा है, तो उनका एक वॉइस है। तो वहां पे 7 लाख से ज्यादा टेनेंट फार्मर्स को 2019 में 19 के साल में कार्ड्स दिए गए थे। लेकिन कार्ड के ऊपर अगर वो बैंक में गए और उनको लोन मिला या नहीं, अगर ये देखें तो लगभग 1 लाख के करीब किसानों को लोन मिला है कार्ड के ऊपर, लेकिन ज्यादातर जो जॉइंट लायबिलिटी ग्रुप्स के रूप में उनको मिला है। और लेकिन अगर जो आपत्ति का जो मुआवजा होता है या फसल बीमा होता है, इसमें ये इंक्लूडेड है। तो ये चित्र है एलईसी कार्ड्स के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का। और मेरा
किरण,
आशा ये है कि
किरण,
2019 में नया सरकार आने के बाद आंध्र प्रदेश में क्रॉप कल्टिवेटर्स राइट्स कार्ड करके एक नया एक्ट उन्होंने लाया है। इसमें ये बदलाव उन्होंने लाया है कि लैंड ओनर का हस्ताक्षर होना चाहिए। एक नया फॉर्म उन्होंने इंट्रोड्यूस किया जिसके ऊपर लैंड ओनर और जो टेनेंट फार्मर होते हैं दोनों का सिग्नेचर होना चाहिए। और उन्होंने ये कहा कि विलेज लेवल पे जो हमारा सेक्रेटेरिएट होता है, जो वॉलंटियर्स होते हैं, वो इसमें मदद करेंगे कि इस फॉर्म को भरने में या और जमीन के मालिक का सिग्नेचर दिलाने में। और ये 2019 से फोर्स में है। अगर लेकिन इसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन अगर हम देखें तो जहां पे वो पुराने कानून में 7 लाख से ज्यादा लोगों को एलईसी कार्ड्स मिला है, नए कानून में 3 लाख से कम, यानी कि सिर्फ 1/3 लोगों को ये सीसीआरसी कार्ड मिल रहे हैं। और जो लैंडलेस किसान होते हैं उनको और भी कम उनको मिल रहा है। लेकिन आंध्र प्रदेश में एक और मैकेनिज्म भी है एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट के तरफ से होता है, जो ई क्रॉप बुकिंग एक ऐप में वो एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट भी रिकॉर्ड करते हैं कि इस साल में ये जमीन में कौन खेती कर रहे हैं, कौन सा फसल उगा रहे हैं। तो उस ऐप में, उस ई क्रॉप बुकिंग में कल्टीवेटर्स के रूप में रिकॉर्ड होने के बाद भी कुछ स्कीम्स जो हैं उनका बेनिफिट इनको मिल सकता है। तो खास करके ये की लेसन जो हम सीख सकते हैं आंध्र प्रदेश के एक्सपीरियंस से कि जो कौन किस जमीन के ऊपर खेती कर रहे हैं, ये इंफॉर्मेशन जो है ये गांव में सबके पास होता है। सभी ये जानते हैं कि इस साल किसके खेत में कौन खेती कर रहे हैं। जो सभी के जानकारी में जो इंफॉर्मेशन है उसको रिकॉर्ड में लाने के लिए वो इतना मुश्किल नहीं होना चाहिए। तो ये 2-3 मैकेनिज्म है एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट के तरफ से और रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट की तरफ से जिससे ये हो सकता है। लेकिन अगर आप इसमें जमीन के मालिक की सहमति वो कंपोनेंट आप लाएंगे तो जरूर ये पूरा मामला बिगड़ जाएगा। So these are the lessons from the Crop Cultivators Rights Act and the LEC Act as far as Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are concerned. So these are the things I wanted to put forward. Ultimately, what we should be asking for is that, like I was saying, it is the information of who is cultivating which piece of land in that particular year is a publicly known information to everybody in the village, and it is an easily verifiable information unless the landowner really uses devious means to hide that information at the ground level. So therefore, if there is political will by the government, they can very easily bring on to record who is cultivating which land, and then make the list of that cultivators, ensure that the cultivators get benefit. And this is what we should be demanding in every state. And if a legal mechanism is required, and that is what is thought the best way, then that should be done. And the legal mechanism should be on the lines of the Land License Cultivators Act, basically, which doesn't require a signature of the landowner. And also there should be a national register of cultivators, which is maintained, and where the agriculture department also can play a role, not just the revenue department. The agriculture department can also play a role in identifying the cultivators and bringing them into the register of cultivators. And this should be determine the eligibility for various schemes, and not just the land record or land ownership should not be the basis. And this should hold for DBT and all the other schemes. This is basically what we are putting forward based on the experience of a couple of states as well as the whole national picture.
Thank you,
thanks, Nachiket. I think that is the end of my presentation as far as what I had planned is concerned. But since the Director of Agriculture of Odisha is not able to join, I have made a slide on the Odisha thing. And if you want me to go ahead right now, I can do that, or I can do it after another speaker.
No, then I think you can just very quickly, but just in a minute or two, very quickly.
Okay. Right. So this is about the Kalia scheme in Odisha. Mr. Muthukumar, who is the director of the Agriculture Department, was supposed to join us, but there was an urgent meeting on COVID, which the Chief Minister called, and therefore he could not join us. But we have had detailed conversations with the Agriculture Department of Odisha on how the scheme has been operating and so on. And based on that, this is just a simple slide, but essentially, like I said, the basic ingredient is the political will of the government. So right from the beginning, when the Kalia scheme was announced in 2018-19, the government declared that this will be applicable to the tenant farmers and cultivators also, not just to the land title holders, right? And they were giving 10,000 rupees per year to each farmer household. So now, then they put in a mechanism to identify the tenant farmer households and also include them. In fact, the good thing about the Kalia scheme is that it also is applicable to agricultural workers, and the landless, so-called landless farmers, which includes people who are in animal husbandry, fisheries, and so on also, which I think should be a model for DBT schemes, across the country. But as far as the tenant cultivators is concerned, once again, they have a simple scheme. There is a self-registration. That means there is a simple form, a green form, which the tenant farmer can fill, saying that in this season I am cultivating this particular land, so many acres, and therefore I should also receive benefit under the Kalia scheme, right? So that is a simple form that the tenant farmer fills. Now they have a simple verification process at the local level. What they do is they make the list of all the people who have applied as tenant farmers, and the list is put up at the panchayat office. They also distribute something called a red form. It's a color-coded form. A red form is meant for objections. So anybody can file an objection saying that, this particular person should not be included in the Kalia scheme, or they are not the cultivators. So that is one mechanism. In addition, there is a committee of 4 people at the village level, at each village level, which consists of the panchayat secretary, the the Gram Sevak, the village agriculture assistant, the village livestock assistant, 4 people. And they go through the whole list and also do a verification at the local level. And there is also cross verification that is done with other databases, such as paddy procurement database and so on of the government, where also cultivators are included. So based on this, they include these cultivators in the Kalia scheme. And once they are included in the Kalia scheme database, then they also get benefits of other schemes. For example, there could be a subsidy scheme for seeds, or for any other inputs, or for disaster compensation, and so on. They include that. But PM Kisan, for example, has their own rules. So therefore, when Odisha government shares the list with the union government, they share the same Kalia database, but they remove all the landless tenant farmers from the list. That is because the union government demands it like that. So this is the basic simple mechanism of the in Odisha. And this is see, the difference between this and, let us say, the having a legal act under the revenue department is that here the revenue department is not involved at all. It is only the agriculture department which is doing this. And they've also followed the model of the Andhra Pradesh government to issue certificate of cultivator to the cultivators, which can also be used to access various schemes and so on. And many of them are also getting loans through joint liability groups. So this has been the experience of Odisha. So I just am briefly sharing that. हिंदी में कालिया स्कीम जो है ओडिशा में, उनका एक्सपीरियंस ये है कि पहले से ही सरकार ने घोषित किया है कि ये कालिया स्कीम के अंदर जो 10,000 रुपीज 10,000 रुपए हर साल मिलते हैं किसानों को, उसमें बटाईदार किसान को भी वो जोड़ेंगे। वो पॉलिटिकल विल का मामला है। दूसरा है सिंपल मैकेनिज्म उन्होंने कर दिया कि सेल्फ रजिस्ट्रेशन जो भी बटाईदार किसान होते हैं वो अप्लाई कर सकते हैं और डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं कि मैं फलाने जमीन में कर रहा हूँ और कर रही हूँ। और उसके बाद में एक वेरिफिकेशन होता है गांव के स्तर पे, वो लिस्ट भी पंचायत ऑफिस में डिस्प्ले किया जाता है। और अगर कोई ऑब्जेक्शन देते हैं कि ये सच में खेती नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो भी कर सकते हैं। और पंचायत का जो 4 मेंबरी कमिटी होता है वो जांच करके निर्धारित करती है कि ये खेती कर रहे हैं नहीं, और उनके पास जो दूसरा इंफॉर्मेशन है उससे भी क्रॉस चेक करते हैं। उसके बाद वो लिस्ट फाइनलाइज करते हैं कि इनको भी कालिया स्कीम में इंक्लूड करना है, और कालिया स्कीम में इंक्लूड करने के बाद ये बटाईदार किसानों को और बेनिफिट्स भी मिलते हैं। वो क्रॉप कल्टिवेट सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ कल्टिवेटर उसको दे सकते हैं, या JLG ग्रुप बना के वो बैंक से लोन ले सकते हैं, और ये सब भी उनको मिलता है। तो ये एक मॉडल है जो स्कीम के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के जरिए से होता है एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट की तरफ से। इसमें रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट का कोई इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं होता। Thank you, Nachiket. Sorry, I took longer than expected.
Thank you very much, Kiran, for that very detailed presentation, and also covering the points that Mr. Muthukumar would have made. Like Kiran said, he couldn't join us because there was an urgent meeting related to COVID. किरण ने काफी विस्तारित तरीके से समझाया कि इस मुद्दे के क्या क्या पेचीदगियां हैं, अलग अलग समस्या भी क्या है और हल भी क्या हो सकता है अलग अलग राज्यों में। मुथुकुमार जी जो ओडिशा सरकार से हमारे साथ जुड़ने वाले थे, एक अचानक मीटिंग आई कोरोना को लेके, इस वजह से वो जुड़ नहीं पाए, लेकिन जो वो कहना चाह रहे थे उन बातों को किरण ने भी रखा। I now call upon Mr. Ram Pratap Singh to place his remarks primarily on the legislation in UP that Kiran was alluding to. Mr. Ram Pratap Singh is with the Progressive Council. अब मैं राम प्रताप सिंह जी को आमंत्रित करूंगा कि वो अपनी बात रखें। वो प्रगतिशील परिषद से जुड़े हैं उत्तर प्रदेश में, और जो किरण ने भी बात रखी कि वहाँ जो कानून में जो बदलाव किया है वो क्या है और उसमें उसकी क्या डिटेल है, वो मैं निवेदन करूंगा। राम प्रताप जी 10 मिनट में अपनी बात रखें। राम प्रताप जी।
जी
राम प्रताप जी एक मिनट, और उससे पहले मैं माफी चाहता हूं कि कुछ तकनीकी दिक्कतों की वजह से पहले लोग जुड़ नहीं पाए। अगर आप फेसबुक या यूट्यूब पे देख रहे हैं, ये फेसबुक यूट्यूब पे भी लाइव स्ट्रीम हो रहा है। अभी आप जूम पे भी जुड़ने की कोशिश कर सकते हैं, ये तकनीकी दिक्कतें अभी ठीक हो गई हैं। और यदि आप फेसबुक यूट्यूब पे भी देख रहे हैं तो अपने सवाल या कमेंट वहां पे भी आप लिख सकते हैं, और यहाँ हम अपने वक्ताओं के सामने आपकी बात रखेंगे। We were having some technical problems earlier, and as a result many people were not able to join. If you're watching this on Facebook and YouTube where it is being live streamed, you can also try to join on Zoom again, and I think we have fixed our technical issues. Nonetheless, if you have any questions or comments, and you can give them even on Facebook or YouTube, and we will get them from there and place it before our speakers here. And towards the end, we will also have a discussion. So even those on Zoom, you can send your questions or comments to any of the hosts or co-hosts, and we will place them before the speakers. माफी चाहता हूँ राम प्रताप जी, आपको शुरुआत में थोड़ा मैंने रोक दिया। आप प्लीज अपनी बात रखें।
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Nachiket, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this forum. I would like to share with all of you the UP or the Uttar Pradesh and the scenario in the north in relation to the tenant farmers. And it remains, I mean, Kiran has detailed out the major issues, and up north also most of the issues remain the same. So first I would like to do a profiling of the tenant farmer or the small and marginal farmer in UP. And that is about 86% of the farming community in Uttar Pradesh is from the small marginal segment. And that amounts to almost 1 crore farmer families in UP who have less than an acre or less than 1.5 acres of land. Now, the tenant farmers here are, again, they may own some small portion of land, and then they go out and lease some land from their, and the farmers who are leasing out land could be absentee landlords, or could be larger farmers who do live in the same space, but may not find it very profitable to be engaging in farming and have other businesses. So these are the two sets of people who are leasing out land. And so the issues of the tenant farmers are more or less the same. I mean, they have no contract. The land holdings are small and scattered. So, and they have no access to credit. DBT schemes are not coming to them. They have minimal extension inputs. So the issues more or less remain the same. And here they have one more issue, which is unique to the area, is the fear from the aggregating companies. And also they have no incentive to invest in, just a second. Yeah, I have a bad internet connection. So I'll just turn off the video.
Yeah.
So I was talking about a typical unique situation in North India, where large aggregating and farming companies have started coming and aggregating land for various agriculture projects or for export processing zones. So here, the tenant farmers are the first ones to lose their land, because the landlords, the local landlords, find it more lucrative to lease out land to the bigger companies that are coming in. And this is leading to a lot of migrant labor issues, where the tenant farmers are moving up, from farming, they are moving into either as laborers, or they're migrating as construction laborers to the NCR area. So Kiran has very well identified the legal issues and how we can sustain the rights of the tenant farmers. But I would like to share an experiment which we have carried out in UP and has worked very well. And before that, on the legal side, what Kiran asked, that has the new legislation related to Tenant Farming Act and registration of tenant farmers, had it worked? Well, I would like to share that it has not worked, primarily because the absentee landlords and the landlord farmers have this intrinsic fear about the tenant farmers. If they get registration rights and their certificates, then at some stage, like the old tenancy laws, they may also seek ownership of their lands. And as a result, it has been very well scuttled and not been implemented at all. So the situation on ground remains more or less the same. So that's pretty much about the issues of the tenant farmers in UP, which is a very large number here. And none of the schemes like the Kalia scheme or none of the governments here in last so many years have thought about the status of the tenant farmers, and PM Kisan again only addresses the land owners and not the tenant farmers. So now coming to the way forward, because I think we have deliberated quite a lot on the issues and it's more or less the same and it's very clear. So so I'll just give you an example where I incorporated a farmer-producer organization called Chambal Agritech Incubator Producer Company Limited in year 2020. And we have about 610 partner farmers and a total aggregated landholding committed to the FPO or the farmer-producer organization is close to 500 acres. Now the model here, I am in the Doab region of Yamuna and Chambal rivers, where it's primarily a potato growing area. And over the years of excessive potato cultivation, the land is facing a lot of degradation. And at the same time, potato as a crop sees a huge price variation from, just to give you an example, the cost of production of potato is about 6 to 7 rupees a kilo, but the market price could vary from 1 rupee, 2 rupees a kilo to 20 rupees a kilo. So the farmers are subjected to the vagaries of the market system, and especially the tenant farmers and the small and marginal farmers are not able to sort of smoothen it out over a period of 4 to 5 years where they end up making profits. So their debts are increasing at a very high rate. And for the first time in so many years now, we are beginning to see farmer suicides in the otherwise generally considered prosperous, the potato belt. So with this FPO, with the Chambal Agritech Incubator, we have got the farmers on board. We set up demonstration units and we encourage them to go back to cultivating the old variety of yellow mustard, the Desi mustard, which was very well being grown here about 30 years ago and was supplied to rest of the country. and the mustard oil was one of the best quality, but somehow people had moved away from that, and we managed to convince our partner farmers to go back into mustard cultivation. And now after 2 years, we are able to fetch a better price, as in the hybrid mustard varieties fetch a price of about 4,000 to 5,000 rupees a quintal, whereas consistently for last 2 years we are getting about 6,500 for our traditional mustard, which is an example of efficient farming, where the cost of production has come down because we are putting in less fertilizers, hardly any fertilizers, only one irrigation. Sometimes no irrigation is required, and so the yield is slightly less, but the overall profitability of the farmer has gone up. Number one. Number two, now we have introduced olive cultivation in this area by planting olive plants on the bunds, or what is called the meagre of the farm. So the existing small areas are not taken out of cultivation, but we have brought in olives. In the second year, we are able to, from the leaves, we are able to make green tea. And in the fourth year onwards, we'll have our own olive fruit production, for which the cluster, the FPO, will be setting up a processing unit, and the brand under which the olive oil will be marketed will be called Wild Chambal. So this is just an example of how we can increase the farmer incomes, bring them together in form of a cooperative, in form of a legal mechanism which exists in the company law structure in the country, and after that, make them part of the value chain. And then working as an FPO, we are able to address all the issues which a small or marginal farmer or a tenant farmer faces, is of small and scattered holdings. So we have a larger holding together. We have access to credit. Of course, we do not have access to DBT, but then extension inputs and the technological inputs can be collectively purchased. And of course, because we are looking at a future situation, so we are investing back in our lands. And obviously, because we have aggregated it ourselves, we do not live under any threat or fear from the aggregating companies or the aggregators. And
Ram Pratap ji, are there also tenant farmers in the FPO?
Yes. So they are. So as I said, the profile of the tenant farmer in our part is that most of the people would still have a small land holding, even if they are bringing in half an acre. And when we were forming the FPO, we gave precedence to the farmers who, the smaller the land holding, the first opportunity, the first right to come in was theirs. And that's why, as I said, we're not taking the land out of conventional cultivation of mustard, and as the monsoon crop, they continue to grow bajra. But along the mead, even if somebody has been able to plant about 100 trees, each olive plant gives you about, just for the tea, gives you about 500 rupees per plant and per annum. And once the fruits come in, it will be about 1,000 rupees. So okay, that's additional 1 lakh rupees of income for a small farmer with just 2 bigha, which is like half an acre of land. So it's working so far. We are very young, only 3 years. But a long way to go. But I feel that this is possibly the way forward, where government could incentivize formation of such FPOs across the farmscape and bring farmers together. And of course, the challenge in this initially was because while I was setting this up and getting the partner farmers in, the farm laws which were repealed had been just brought in. And so when I was asking the farmers, I was asking them for their Aadhaar card, their land documents, their bank details, and they were extremely afraid because they thought that this is pretty much what they own. And with the backdrop of the farm laws, this was becoming a challenge. But then, of course, me being a local here, and I've been here for the last 22 years, I was able to generate the confidence, and we were able to form. So we would need sort of the pioneer farmers for every region, right, to get the community together, and they have to be from the community. So that the community would trust them, and there would also be pressures on them, so that if somebody wants to be errant and there is a community pressure on him or her to perform in a certain way. So yeah, thank you. I think on FPOs itself, we need to have a separate webinar. Right.
So thank you very much. Yeah, sorry.
I made my point. Yeah, no. So I've made my point here in terms of what the scenario and the way forward. And I think I would like to end my talk here. Thank you very much, Nachiket.
या थैंक यू वेरी मच राम प्रताप जी. मैं संक्षेप में हिंदी में अनुवाद करूंगा जो बात राम प्रताप जी ने रखा. उन्होंने कहा कि उत्तर प्रदेश में लगभग 46% ऐसे किसान हैं जो छोटे या लघु किसान हैं, और ऐसे ही किसान ज्यादातर बटाईदार खेती या दूसरों की जमीन को लीज पर लेके खेती करते हैं. और जैसे किरण ने कहा था, उत्तर प्रदेश में भी वही हाल है कि जो किसान जमीन को लीज पे लेके खेती करते हैं उनको सरकारी स्कीम से कोई फायदा नहीं मिलता है. और आजकल जो बड़े किसान या जो ऐसे लोग हैं जिनके पास बहुत सारा जमीन है, आजकल ऐसे हो रहा है कि वो दूसरे छोटे किसान को लीज पे देने के बजाय ये चाहते हैं कि कोई कंपनी आए तो कंपनी को लीज पे दें. तो इस वजह से जो छोटे और लघु किसान हैं उनको आसानी से जमीन लीज पे मिलना भी थोड़ा मुश्किल हो रहा है, आसानी से नहीं मिल रहा है. और जो किरण ने बात कही थी कि उत्तर प्रदेश में लीज को लेके जो कानून में बदलाव हुआ था, उसका राम प्रताप जी ने कहा कि ज्यादा उससे फायदा नहीं हुआ है. और अभी भी पुराने डर से ही अभी भी जो व्यक्ति जमीन को लीज पे दे रहा है वो अभी भी डर रहा है कि हो सकता है कि लीज पे देने से उनका आगे जाके जमीन छीना जाए. और इस वजह से कानून में बदलाव होने के बावजूद जो किसान लीज पे लेते हैं उनको ज्यादा फायदा नहीं मिल रहा है. और वो कह रहे थे कि सरकारों ने अभी तक इस मुद्दे के बारे में ठीक से सोचा नहीं है, और ये जहाँ काम करते हैं उत्तर प्रदेश में, वहाँ ज्यादातर आलू की खेती होती है, और वहाँ आजकल आत्महत्या वहाँ पे भी होने लगे हैं. और इसके लिए उन्होंने किसानों का एक एफपीओ बनाया है और कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि आलू के बजाय दूसरे फसलों को लेके, खास करके तिलहन फसल लेके उससे किसानों को फायदा देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. और इस एफपीओ में छोटे लघु किसान या जो किसान लीज पे जमीन ले रहे हैं उनको प्राथमिकता मिल रही है सदस्यता में. राम प्रताप जी को इन बातों को रखने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. अब आगे बढ़ते हैं. उससे पहले मैं जस्ट आप सबको सूचित करना चाह रहा हूं कि किरण ने अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन चैट में डाला है. अब मैं रंजनी जी को आमंत्रित करूंगा कि वो अपनी बात रखें. रंजनी जी जो केरल राज्य में कुडुम्बश्री एक सरकारी योजना है उसमें काम करती हैं और वहाँ पे डिस्ट्रिक्ट मिशन कोऑर्डिनेटर हैं. तो वो ये बात रखेंगे कि कुडुम्बश्री में कैसे महिला किसानों को लीज में जमीन दिया जा रहा है और उससे वो कैसे किया जा रहा है और उससे क्या फायदा है. Just before introducing the next speaker, I would like to just tell everyone who has joined on Zoom that Kiran has shared his presentation in the chat. You can download it from there if you want. And I invite our next speaker, Renjini S. She is from Kerala and works with the Kudumbashree program of the government of Kerala as the district mission coordinator. She will talk about programmatic solutions and how in Kudumbashree land is being given on lease to groups of women farmers and how that is being done and what are the advantages. Ms. Renjini, over to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes, Nichiket, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You are audible. And your presentation, if you can make it full screen when you're presenting. We can see your screen. Please carry on. No, we can see your screen. Please carry on. You can show the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Is it okay right now?
Yes, perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening, all. I'm Renjini, District Mission Coordinator, Kudumbashree District Mission, Ernakulam. Actually, I would like to express my thanks to Kavitha ji and the organizers of ASHA for providing me this opportunity. I'll just brief out about the mission and also the Kudumbashree model of collective farming. Actually, Kudumbashree is the poverty eradication and women empowerment program implemented by the State Poverty Eradication Mission of Kerala. The name in Malayalam language means prosperity of the family. The mission has two entities. That is, this is the emblem of Kudumbashree. I think you can notice the three flowers, and the three flowers represent three key concepts of Kudumbashree, namely economic empowerment, social empowerment, and women empowerment. And the violet color represents women emancipation, and the green represents prosperity. The Kudumbashree mission has two entities. The Kudumbashree, the one is the community structure, and the other is the administrative structure of the mission. The Kudumbashree community network has a three-tier structure for its women members. At the base level, we have the neighborhood groups, that is the energies. The energy functions at the lowest level, and it consists of 10 to 20 women members, and the membership is limited to one per family. And the membership structure and function of the energies are bound by the bylaw of Kudumbashree CDS. And the main functions include regular weekly meetings, running thrift and credit schemes, account keeping, maintaining bank account, participation in Gram Sabhas, create gender awareness, and undertake social responsibilities as and when required. And this is the basic level activity of Kudumbashree. And at the middle level, we have the area development societies. It is the middle tier of the Kudumbashree community organization, and ADS is formed at the ward level of the local government. It has got a general body comprising 5 elected representatives from the energies, and it has got an executive committee. It is mainly act as a connecting link between the energy and the CDS. And coming to the Community Development Society, that is the CDS, which is the apex body of the three-tier Kudumbashree community organization. And the CDS functions at the local government level in both rural and urban areas. It has got many functions. It works towards women empowerment, local economic development, and poverty eradication through the three-tier community network. So it also functions as a community development agency in the preparation of development plans of the local governments, as well as their implementation and monitoring, etc. Then coming to the Kudumbashree programs, as we see them today, came out of a system that promoted innovation and encouraged new ideas. Several of the schemes, several of the Kudumbashree schemes came out of inputs and demands from the field. We have mainly 3 program domains. They are mainly related with economic empowerment, social empowerment, and women empowerment. In addition to this, Kudumbashree implements the urban poverty alleviation programs of the Government of India. And economic empowerment, along with social empowerment and women empowerment, is one of the central themes of Kudumbashree idea. And the mission's strategy is to promote economic empowerment of the poor and contribute to local economic development. The mission has several programs for economic development, and collective farming is one of the major programs implemented through Kudumbashree mission. And other programs include livestock farming and micro enterprises activities are also programs which are formulated for the economic empowerment and targeting the economic empowerment of the poor women members of the community network. Coming to the collective farming, actually collective farming is cultivation of fallow farmland taken or informal lease by groups of Kudumbashree women with the support of Panchayat and the Kudumbashree community network. And this program aims to provide economic empowerment of women while keeping local government in moving towards food security. So actually the farming is done by the joint liability groups, the concept promoted by NABARD. And let me explain the rationale for the program. Actually, Kerala has been witnessing a dichotomy of fallowing of farming land on the one hand, and the state's increasing dependence for food products on other states. So the crisis that the farming sector has been facing in Kerala invariably affected entire population. Actually, women have been the worst hit as men who lost opportunities in farming sector began to migrate in other areas or diversified their labor into new areas. And there had been attempts in collective farming in Kerala during the later half of the 1980s. However, it met with limited success as initiative targeted paddy alone and also bounded by the adverse economies of paddy sector itself. It was in this context that Kudumbashree launched a massive program for organizing women to keep up leased land farming. Actually, the origin of the farming as a livelihood initiative for women can be traced back to the year 2000. The first initiative took place in one of the GPs in Ernakulam district. The meeting of the energy members held aside the Periyar Valley irrigation canal took note of the large stretches of paddy land that were lying fallow. They expressed their desire to cultivate paddy. The idea was that if they could cultivate paddy for a season, they could produce enough rice to meet the household needs for 6 months a year. But the problem was that those poor energy members did not possess any land. The discussion went on exploring the possibility of getting some land from the landowners and decided to cultivate. The panchayat, that is the local body, supported them. The women took the land on informal lease from the landowner. And the endeavor was, fortunately, the endeavor was so successful, and those women bought 40 cents of land from the money they made out of collective farming. That was a big success of this leased land farming. And seeing this success of this women, Kudumbashree decided to promote collective farming in 1,000 acres per district in the following season. It was also decided to promote crops and vegetables with good demand in the market. And this is the progress over the years. In 2000, in the year 2000, we started the leased land farming. Then comes the JLG concept. In 2009, we started the collective farming, and then with the institutional form of JLGs. Actually, the Kudumbashree brought NABARD concept of JLGs in collective farming in 2010-11. And banks are providing loans at 7% interest rate, and the government under the interest subvention scheme provides 5% subsidy to JLGs under the scheme. Actually, the cultivation process starts with the Kudumbashree community network identifying and assessing cultivable fallow land in the area of the local body. Once the land is identified, JLGs are to be formed of 4 to 10 members. The members are from same energy or from different energies. Each JLG is controlled and monitored by the ADS and the CDS concerned. The local government is also monitoring the activities of the JLGs concerned. The JLG has to select its president and secretary. The energy also has to endorse that the JLG members are not part of multiple JLGs. So in 2011, the mission has launched the MKSP program as a subcomponent of NRLM with the objectives of increasing visibility of women in agriculture, reducing drudgery, and providing livelihood opportunities by adopting sustainable and eco-friendly agriculture methods. So under the scheme, several steps had been initiated for promoting leased land farming. And one important advantage of the scheme was that so many farmer facilitation centers were established under the scheme, and these farmer facilitation centers played a major role in supporting and monitoring farming related activities of these women farmers. So several steps had been initiated for promoting leased land farming, and the JLGs involved in collective farming selected for skill development, and master farmers were also selected from the community network itself, from the farming group itself, and we provided training to them and assigned them with the task of supporting the other JLGs functioning in the local body. And we are also providing skill development, which includes training on harvesting, threshing, and winnowing, special training programs in repairing of machines, training for biofertilization and biopesticides, etc. Were also provided to these women farmers. We also ensure the availability of master farmers at the FFCs, and the women farmers can approach them at any time. The FFC act as a link between JLG and the Agriculture Department. All master farmers are registered with the FFC, and the CDS chairperson acts as the chairperson of the FFC working committee. And actually, this is the this is the basic collective farming activity. And coming to the leased land farming peculiarities. One is that leased land arrangements ensure a system of better supply position for agricultural land. That is the most important advantage of the scheme. And the second is that women farmers are reformed socially and financially, through the togetherness from the state of being landless poor. And thirdly, identification of fallow lands and cultivation adding up to the eco restoration, and also boost the agrarian economy of the state. And another important thing is that this kind of activity helps the groups to increase farm size, pooled labor, improved credit access, enhanced bargaining power and profit by bringing scalable economies. And coming to the scope of liberalization and legalization of this leased land farming, we can find that more area can be put under cultivation. This will help to promote promote agriculture efficiency, equity, and occupational diversity. And another important objective is the fallow-less village for higher sustainable development plan. It also helps to increase the production and productivity, leading to ensure the achieve the food security status. And the ecological and social upliftment through rural economic transformation is also important. And through convergence programs, we are providing high-tech production technology that can be adopted for farming, including mechanization, for increased farm output, more towards an organic approach for safe to eat food and healthier generation. And also another point is that the soil fertility improvement through long-term investments. These are the arguments for leased land farming. Actually, this is about the current system of leasing lands in Kerala. Leased land farming model of Kudumbashree upholds the concept of ecofeminism, contributing significantly to greener and self-sufficient food secure state. These women farmers identify lands that are fallow and cultivable and get supported through strong organizational and community structure of Kudumbashree. That is the main advantage of this collective farming. They are monitored and supported by the strong community network of Kudumbashree. And the LSGs also play a major role. the LSGs and the people representatives, like the elected panchayat officials, CDS and ADS members, and others who are stakeholders in the decentralized planning process at the grassroots levels, encourage the JLGs for taking up fallow cultivation on larger scale. With regard to the agreement, means legal side, the agreement is made between the landowner and JLG groups usually would be for a period of less than 1 year due to the existing hassles associated with Land Reforms Act of 1963. The mutual consent of both specified to the tenure mentioned above will be written on a stamped white paper and witnessed by either ward member or ADS member of Kudumbashree or some other locally prominent individual. This is the assurance of given to the landowners. Here, the ward member and the entire local body system plays a major role in giving assurance to the landowner, in addition to the support provided by the Kudumbashree community network. And the rent paid by the groups varies according to the area of land taken and the crop they intend to grow, varying from 500 to 10,000. The matter is that sometimes the farmers are charging only, collecting only nominal rent. Sometimes they even don't collect any rent for this leasing of land. And some landowners charges 4,000 or 5,000 per hectare, per acre, and some charges up to 10,000, which depends upon the cropping pattern in the selected by the JLG. And coming to the leased land farming practices, actually leased land farming mainly confined to commercial crops. Paddy, banana, tubers and vegetables are the crops preferably taken by the JLGs for cultivation, and now perennials preferred. And they also follow traditional eco-friendly methods, and also produce. They try to produce safe to eat commodities. Leased land farming, coming to the institutional support provided to the leased land farming. The Grama Panchayat plays a major role. It provides machinery support as well as basic facilities like water supply, ensure marketing, etc. And the MGNRGS is also is a good. We are having good convergence with the MGNRGS program. The land preparation activities are being done under the MGNRGS scheme. Then slope leveling, bund construction, etc. Are done through the under the MGNRGS scheme. And the construction work of workshed, construction of workshed for this agriculture value addition units, biopharmacy for that inputs required for the cultivation, biopesticides, etc. The construction of that biopharmacy were also being done through this MGNRGS convergence. And the government, from the government side, the JLGs are getting interest subsidy and area incentive in every financial year. We are also getting support from the agriculture department. They provide state crop insurance to this JLGs, and they also provide technical support, skilling, etc. And they, especially with the R&D institutions functioning in the state. And the banks also provides loans because there is no issues in providing JLG loans to the farmers, because all these activities are coming under the Kudumbashree network now. So the banks are very much assured about the very much. These JLGs are very much prompt in repaying the loans and everything, and all the activities are monitored by the ADS as well as the CDS. And the current status, by 2021, a total of 73,168 JLGs have been formed with 3,31,207 women as its members. And JLGs in almost all the districts, in all the 14 districts, JLGs are functioning. A total of 3,085 master farmers have been identified, and farmer facility centers have been set up in all 942 Grama Panchayats. And the JLGs together had availed 150 crore as loan through bank linkage program in 1 year. And I already mentioned about the master farmers. The master farmers are the skilled and knowledgeable human resource from community, selected from the community network itself, and their main objective is to help the rural Mahila Kisans in farming activities by imparting consultancy services. So we are having more than 3,000 master farmers in the state, and also we are having master farmer trainees functioning at the block level. They are the JIVA, that is the JLG evaluation agencies. It consists of 4 master farmers, and there will be 1 JIVA for 1 block. And this is the agri resource centers, these FFCs and biopharmacies. They also provide single window resource technical support and tool assistance through trained master farmers. And coming to this point, designing interventions to enhance capabilities of Mahila Kisans through focused capacity building for a robust model for sustainable agriculture. We are giving trainings, we are providing the trainings to these JLG groups, master farmers, and community level resource persons, etc. So that program, we are doing it with the help of research institutes and the agriculture university functioning in the state. And this is another project.
May I request you to wrap up soon?
Yeah. It'll take another two minutes. And this is the this is one of the priority project of the government of Kerala. On background of the COVID pandemic, the Kerala government has initiated the Subiksha Kerala project to combat the food scarcity in the state. The Kerala State Agriculture Department has started converting fallow lands to cultivable land. Actually, it is envisaged as a convergence scheme where all the departments are merging together. The government is targeting around 25,000 hectares of fallow land to convert to farmlands. And as a result of this Subiksha Keralam campaign, we were able to organize. The campaigns were organized in districts with the participation of 21,213 group farms, and also 4,481 group farms were also formed as a part of this program. And temporarily, another important achievement of this program was the revival of the non-functioned farm groups. Around 1,575 farm groups were revived as part of the program, and an area of 2,130.21 hectares added to the land area available for cultivation, and an area of 2,398.97 hectare was converted from barren land to cultivable land via group farming. So this was a major success, and the state government is also providing support for the scheme. The Panchayat is also support the Subiksha Keralam project. It's one of the major project under the plan of all the local bodies functioning in the state. And these are the women. These women enterprises farm based on the farm livelihood activities. These are examples of some demand-based strategical interventions in the farm livelihood area. Intensive banana farming. This scheme envisages ample supply of banana to cater to the needs of the common in peak requirement period. And we are also providing support to plant nurseries. Plant nurseries were established by either by the JLGs or the Kudumbashree members. Through this program, we try to ensure the supply of best quality seedlings and saplings at a reasonable and uniform rates across the state. And online monitoring of stocks and sales also will be done through mobile app. So far, the mission has established 506 plant nurseries throughout the state. And this is another image. And we also have interventions based on the requirement from the farming groups. We have started value addition units, and the main objective is to take up entrepreneurship for supplementing for the development of entrepreneurship among the women farmers. And it will also supplement the household income, making them equal partners in the financial prosperity of their family. So we have around 641 value addition units on various crops over here. And rice branding is yet another initiative. And through this initiative, we are trying to move the farmers from production to collective processing. And localized branding with standardized packing is that kind of training and that kind of branding techniques also provided to these units. And Nattu Chanda is the rural markets. This is for the this is to ensure the market facility for the JLGs. We used to organize monthly markets at the CDS level and also weekly markets in every CDS. We also provided the machineries and support required for smooth conducting of the markets at the local level. And in association with agriculture department, also we are organizing markets at the local level. And with respect to technological interventions, we also provide technology. We also provide that kind of technical support and skill training for the establishment of this technology-infused entrepreneurs. Tissue culture labs, whether trichocat production units, aquaponics, hydroponics, etc., are promoting. These are the images of our aquaculture, tissue culture units, and special initiatives are also there. We are trying for fallowless villages, and we are also trying to achieve Bhakshya Suraksha Bhavanam. It's an awareness campaigns and aims at self-sufficiency in vegetable production. And 22 lakh members were trained as part of this Bhakshya Suraksha Bhavanam campaign. And medicinal plant cultivation is yet another initiative. We are also there is a good market for this medicinal plant cultivation, and these are the images with regard to the same. And we are also initiating programs with social commitment. We are also providing agri therapy to the students of the BUD school, mentally retarded school children. And we are also set up special tribal JLG and tribal Jiva, and we are also imparting training to the tribal people related with this group farming and collective farming, etc. And we are also having convergence with central institutions with regard to training, technology transfer, and inland fish farming and artificial pond fish farming, etc. We have good convergence with the MGNREGS program, and also with state institutions, we are having good convergence methods. Agriculture department is it's over.
Okay. Sorry, I'm very sorry, but since we are also running out of time, I'm very sorry.
Okay. So these are the major convergence programs associated with the R&D institutions in the state. These are the main interventions of Kudumbashree in collective farming area. I think I served the objective of this topic. Thank you all.
Thank you very, very much, Renjini ji. It's quite inspiring what Kudumbashree is doing, and thank you very much for presenting it all to us here. I'll just very quick, मैं बहुत ही जल्दी संक्षेप में अनुवाद करूंगा. पहले ये कहना चाहूंगा कि जब राम प्रताप जी बोल रहे थे, मैंने थोड़ा अनुवाद में गलती की. उन्होंने कहा था कि 86% यानी 86% छोटे लघु किसान हैं। मैंने अनुवाद में गलती से 46 कहा, 46, वो 46 नहीं 86 है, माफी चाहता हूँ। रंजिनी जी ने कुडुम्बश्री प्रोग्राम जो केरला सरकार चलाती है उसके बारे में हमें बताया। ये एक गरीबी को हटाने के लिए एक योजना है और इसमें खेती एक समूह करती है। 4 से 10 महिला किसान होते हैं, उनका समूह बनता है और वो मिलजुल के एक सामूहिक तरीके से खेती करते हैं। वो इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि पुरुष जैसे जैसे केरल में नौकरी या काम करने का रोजगार मिलना बंद हो गया तो पुरुष पलायन कर रहे थे। इस वजह से महिलाओं का समूह बना के वहां स्थानीय जगह में उनको एक विकल्प, रोजगार का विकल्प देने के लिए कार्यक्रम शुरू किया गया। शुरुआत में कुछ दिक्कतें हुई क्योंकि ये सिर्फ धान के फसल में कर रहे थे। बाद में और फसल जोड़ने के बाद ये ज्यादा सफल हुआ। अब केला भी करते हैं, सब्जियां भी करते हैं। ये सब जो फसल है इनके बारे में रंजनी जी ने बताया। और ये एक और खास बात है कि इसमें खास करके जो बंजर जमीन है, कुछ लोगों ने मुझे चैट में भी डाला था कि बंजर जमीन का सोचना चाहिए कि क्या ऐसे किसानों को दे सकते हैं जमीन खेती करने के लिए। तो कुडुम्बश्री में ये किया जा रहा है और इससे जो जमीन खेती में आ रहा है वो भी बढ़ जाता है, क्योंकि नहीं तो वो उस पर कोई खेती कर नहीं रहा था। और इसमें ये भी जोर दिया जाता है कि एक दीर्घकालीन तरीके से लंबे समय से इस पे काम करके ये जो मिट्टी है उसको ज्यादा उपजाऊ भी किया जाए। और थोड़ा इस पे जोर भी दिया जाता है कि प्रकृति के लिए जो जिस तरीके से खेती करें उससे पर्यावरण का नुकसान ना हो, और जैविक खेती का भी इसमें करते हैं। और इस वजह से उन्होंने कहा कि ये एक इको फेमिनिज्म है, यानी पर्यावरण भी है और इसमें महिलावादी सोच भी है, दोनों का बढ़ावा देता है। और इसमें ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि राज्य की तरफ से इस पूरे योजना को अलग अलग तरीके से सहयोग मिलता है। औजार भी मिलते हैं, पानी के लिए भी मदद करते हैं, जमीन को तैयार करने में नरेगा से भी लेबर को लाके इसमें जमीन को तैयार करते हैं। तो इस तरीके से जो कन्वर्जेंस कहते हैं अंग्रेजी में, वो इसमें हो रहा है कि अलग अलग योजनाओं के तहत इस योजना में लाभ ले रहे हैं। और समूह बनने के वजह से आर्थिक सहायता भी मिलता है, सब्सिडी मिलते हैं, लोन मिलते हैं और बीमा भी हो जाता है। और इसके बाद मार्केटिंग में भी, फसल कटने के बाद मार्केटिंग में भी मदद मिलता है। और वैल्यू एडिशन, यानी मान के चलिए धान हुआ तो उसको मिल करके चावल करने में, या गेहूं है तो उसको आटा करने में, इस तरीके से वैल्यू एडिशन में भी मदद देते हैं। और इससे परिवार के अलग अलग सदस्य भी, महिलाओं के अलावा, उनको भी एक रोजगार का तरीका बन जाता है। और इसमें बस आखिरी 2 पॉइंट मैं कहना चाहूंगा। एक तो जो लीज इसमें होता है 1 साल से कम का होता है, क्योंकि केरला राज्य में जो कानून है उसके हिसाब से जो लोग लीज पे देते हैं, ज्यादा लंबे समय के लिए लीज पे देने से वो डरते हैं। इस वजह से 1 साल से कम का ही होता है। और इसी वजह से जो फसल भी लेते हैं वो ऐसे फसल होते हैं जो शॉर्ट टर्म होते हैं, यानी मतलब साल भर का फसल नहीं होता है। और दूसरा है कि ये एक लिखित समझौता होता है, लिखित में एग्रीमेंट होता है लीज का। और जो फसल ले रहे हैं उसके हिसाब से लीज में क्या अमाउंट है वो अलग अलग जगह में अलग अलग है। 500 से लेके 10,000 रुपए एकड़ तक का लीज का अमाउंट होता है। और ये बहुत फैला है केरल में। 3,30,000 महिलाओं से ज्यादा इस कार्यक्रम में लाभ ले रहे हैं और ये एक बहुत अच्छी बात है। तो रंजनी को मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कहना चाहूंगा कि वो समय निकाल के आज हमें इस योजना के बारे में बताया, और अलग अलग राज्य भी सीख सकते हैं कि ये केरल कैसे कर रहा है। अब मैं कविता जी को आमंत्रण देना चाहूंगा कि वो अपनी बात रखें। कविता जी भी आशा से जुड़े हैं और जो लीज को लेके जो कानून है उसके बारे में बताएंगे। I now call upon Kavitha Kuruganti to place her remarks. She is associated with ASHA and will talk to us about the Land Leasing Act. Kavitha.
Thank you, Nachiket. I want to begin by saying that the fact that farming itself has become unviable seems to be one of the reasons why there is increased tenancy or leased land cultivation, because that lack of viability is leading to people wanting to move out, and any lease rent that they get without cultivating it themselves seems to be less risky, and therefore this whole phenomenon of leasing out, leasing in seems to be on the rise. On the other hand, the point that Kiran mentioned, which is that more DBT and direct income transfer schemes are also entrenching the stakes that landowners have, apart from the earlier tenancy laws, in wanting to keep this under the carpet and make sure that they garner all these cash transfers that are happening in the name of title holders. So we are at a situation where it is very clear that whatever we propose, whether it is a statutory solution or a programmatic solution, or just a registration of all cultivators and giving them some identity, everything should center around how we can make agriculture economically viable and sustainable to the real cultivator. Any piecemeal approach, either in legalization approaches or programmatic approaches, I think won't make the life of tenant farmers any easier. There may be some slight benefits and so on. And that brings me to the Niti Aayog proposed Model Land Leasing Act. We from ASHA were involved in the consultations that happened at that point of time. And while discussing, the issues of tenant farmers and entitlements, one misses the presence and participation of Dr. Tajamul Haq quite a bit. Dr. T. Haq is someone who studied this extensively, and we lost him to COVID second wave last year. And I would like to say that it was because of his presence that the Model Land Leasing Act is slightly better than what it would have been if he was not involved, because the Niti Aayog's land leasing legalization effort came at a time when Mr. Narendra Modi was attempting repeated ordinances of trying to dilute the Land Acquisition Act. And at that time, Mr. Arvind Panagaria actually wrote a blog piece that is still there on the Niti Aayog website that said that legalizing land lease is a way of bypassing all the hassles around land acquisition, and that long-term lease arrangements are probably the answer to ease land markets and what corporations wanted. Whatever Mr. Panagaria wanted, or some people may have wanted, what we do have in the form of the Model Land Leasing Act is actually an act that the center is recommending to state governments, which really benefits the landowners. The entire presumption in the Model Land Leasing Act is about how to protect the interests of the lessors, who are the landowners, and how do we allay their fears, and how do we make the lease agreement in a manner that they do not face any restrictions on them or land alienation happening from them. But no provisions were put in, even though many protective provisions were put in on behalf of the lessors. There was nothing put in as restriction for the landowner. For instance, Niti Aayog could have thought of one small provision that said that while the land lease period is on, the landowner will not take crop loan from their bank, for instance. That's only a minor example. Nothing of that sort in terms of restrictions on the landowners had been thought of. And secondly, a very, very big lacuna in the Model Land Leasing Act was that no responsibilities or accountability was fixed on government departments and authorities on what they are supposed to do to provide identity to lessee cultivators and to give them some entitlements. In the end, the Model Land Leasing Act of Niti Aayog was essentially about leaving it open to the market between the landowner and the lessee cultivator. And we know how much of a unequal playing field that is even today in India's socio-economic setup, in our agrarian structures in rural India. And the Niti Aayog Model Act also allowed for oral leases, by the ways. And even there, rights of landowners were protected under oral leases, but nothing to protect the rights of lessees. If that is the case, what will be the incentive for any landowner to think about a written agreement to make the tenant farmer visible? That very provision undermines, even if there were one or two minor positive points in the Niti Aayog Model Act, and under a section called Entitlements and Eligibility to Lessee Cultivators, a few things are listed, but it was all left to the generosity or the market forces related to banks and others, whether they would lend to lessee cultivators. Nothing in terms of actionability and accountability on governments was fixed in the Model Land Leasing Act. And that is very, very important for all of us to note, because the center to this day keeps trying to push that onto state governments. And this might be in fact, it was thought of as part of the package when the 3 farm laws were brought in. The very next step that they were envisaging was about thinking about maybe a central land leasing act, or using the center's powers to push that sort of a legislation onto the state governments, whether it is through finance commission related mechanisms or whatever. So we've got to watch out for that Model Land Leasing Act being thrust on state governments. I want to come to a few thoughts on what could be the possible solutions. And I want to begin by saying that given that tenancy situation, levels of leased-in cultivation, how many such farmers, what kinds of arrangements to this day for tenant farmers are very, very variable across states, are very different across states. We've got to give space for different answers in different states. And those answers can take either a legal form or a programmatic form. But diversity is the answer. Just like in most other things in farming, we say that diversity of policy solutions is an answer. We've got to acknowledge the fact that more and more there is a visible trend towards cash-based lease arrangements rather than sharecropping or other forms of tenancy. In fact, climate change and frequent natural disasters and the wish to move away from unviable farming is making landowners insist on cash-based lease rents, even in rain-fed farming and in so-called remote areas and geographies of this country. So in that situation, we've got to think about what answers might work. It's clear that if there is political will, solutions are possible, even while keeping tenancy laws as they are. And these are solutions that can probably run parallel to those laws not having to be dismantled. That's one point that we've got to recognize. Both legal and programmatic intervention is possible. We have seen that in the statutes that were brought in the Telugu speaking states, getting even the ID cards has been a huge challenge. And even when you get those ID cards, attaching entitlements from banks and market players to those ID cards has been a big challenge. But despite that, I think there is an answer in a certain sort of legalization, which includes, along with the legal regime, some provisions related to accountability on the departments and department officials, as well as provisions like credit guarantee fund and subvention explicitly being attached to tenant farmer entitlements also, and so on. I think we've got to begin with a clear enumeration of how many absolutely landless tenant farmers are we talking about, because they are the ones who are taking the biggest risk in staying in farming while others are opting out. And we've got to think about a whole package for such landless tenant farmers. We've got to enlist them because the partly landed smallholder, marginal holder farmers who are into tenant farming at least have some entitlements coming to them in the form of PM-Kisan and so on and so forth. Other than the Kalia scheme in Odisha, which is based on just a separate database of farmers, what they classify at the state government level as a farmer, where a self-declaration followed by a village level, Gram Sabha level verification process with a little more validation from departmental frontline people. We do seem to have one more example from West Bengal, which is about their insurance scheme, the Bangla Shasya Bima scheme at this point of time, which for tenant farmers, it's just for insurance, crop insurance entitlement. It depends on a land possession certificate that is supposed to be issued by the village pradhan as per a given format. But remember, even that is linked to knowledge of which particular survey number from which particular farmer has been leased in. So my proposal, and there are also examples from states like Andhra Pradesh, other than its explicit CRC legislation, it also tried with maintaining separate cultivation records from what the revenue department maintains in the form of cultivation records. And here technology was brought in. It is called e-Panta, crop booking by the agriculture department based on satellite imagery, geotagged photographs, and so on and so forth. But even that did not manage to actually name real cultivators, because the entrenched socio-political setup at the village level is too deep. So my first proposal is this. Other than looking at what exists as legislations, can we think about registration that delinks tenant farmers' existence and recognition from particular survey numbers and particular landowners? I can envisage, for instance, some household-based schemes, which are not per hectare schemes, but per household schemes. PM-Kisan is a classic example, where you can identify tenant farmers in a village without linking them to particular survey numbers and particular landowners. So can we think about delinking this recognition system for a simple system of tenant farmers getting certain entitlements. I can imagine even disaster compensation or procurement by government agencies being possible with this delinked recognition. Why are we not doing it? Why are we so bent on excluding farmers, whereas we are including so many wrong non-cultivating landowners at this point of time and expending precious public financing on the wrong people? So that's one point. The second point that I want to make, I am ending, Nachiket, is that group farming seems to allay the fears of landowners. And we have seen this in the Kudumbashree scheme. It may be the presence of government agencies being there, it may be the presence of panchayats being there, it may be the presence of the SHG members being there, but groups themselves leasing in land seems to allay landowners' fears to an extent. So why can't we think about collective farming getting a lot more support as tenant farmers, joint liability groups, but those JLGs being on par with KCCs, the Kisan credit card schemes, because KCCs have automatic interest subvention. KCCs don't wait for JLG proposals to bankers, and KCC members have life insurance cover and so on and so forth. So can we have a good combination of JLGs that are on par with KCCs and collectives receiving a complete and comprehensive package? Because we are talking about agriculture being unviable without collective farming. So that's my second point. My third point is essentially about maybe India has to suspend its DBT and DIT schemes for a while until we get visibility and recognition and streamline what we want to do with tenant farmers. Otherwise, both of these going parallel will create a big problem in tenant farmers' interest actually being prioritized by our political leadership. And the last thing that I want to say, which I'll stop with, is that in the situations assessment surveys that we do have today, we may need separate SAS for leased-in farmers. I'll stop there, Nachiket. Thank you for this.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कविता जी को। मैं संक्षेप में उनका जो उन्होंने बात रखी उसका मैं अनुवाद करूंगा। सबसे पहले उन्होंने कहा कि खेती और कृषि ही अभी करना एक आर्थिक तरीके से अगर देखा जाए तो घाटे का सौदा है। तो अगर बटाईदार किसान या जो लीज पे लेके खेती करते हैं उनका भी अगर कुछ फायदा करना है तो सबसे पहले खेती ही फायदे का सौदा होना चाहिए। और फिर इसमें जब हम ये सोचते हैं कि खेती फायदेमंद कैसा रहे, तब हमें ये भी सोचना चाहिए कि ये जो किसान लीज पे लेके खेती करते हैं उनके लिए भी फायदेमंद कैसे रहे। अगला उन्होंने कहा कि जितने सरकार के तरफ से योजना है या उनसे सरकार से जो लाभ मिलता है वो ज्यादातर जमीन होने के नाते पे ही मिलता है। अगर किसान का अपने नाम में कोई जमीन है तभी उनको ये फायदा या लाभ मिलता है। इस वजह से लोग जो जिनके पास जमीन है वो लीज में देने से डरते हैं, क्योंकि उनको लगता है कि लीज पे दें तो फिर सरकार से जो लाभ मिल रहा है वो मिलना बंद हो जाएगा। और फिर उन्होंने मॉडल लीजिंग एक्ट जो केंद्र की तरफ से एक कानून उन्होंने बनाया था, जो एक तरीके से एक नमूना कानून था, लेकिन उनके तरफ से था कि ये अगर अच्छा कानून बने तो इस तरीके से बन सकता है। तो एक सलाह के तौर पे उन्होंने कानून ड्राफ्ट करके फिर राज्यों को कहा, क्योंकि ये राज्य का विषय है, कि राज्य ऐसे एक कानून पास कर सकते हैं। तो उसके बारे में उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि टी हक जो कोरोना के पिछले लहर में गुजर गए, उनकी काफी बड़ी भूमिका थी इस कानून को थोड़ा सुधार, जो केंद्र की तरफ से नमूना कानून बना उसको सुधारने में उनका काफी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही। और वो कह रहे थे कि जो केंद्र की तरफ से जो कानून बना है उसमें मुख्य तौर पे उसके पीछे जो सोच है वो ये है कि जो अपना जमीन लीज पे दे रहे हैं उनको उनकी जमीन का सुरक्षा हो, उनको ये डर ना लगे कि जमीन को लीज पे देने से उनको कोई आगे जाके दिक्कत हो या उनको अपना जमीन का हक ना मिले अपने जमीन पर। तो जितने प्रावधान बने हैं वो इस तरीके के बने हैं कि उनको एक तरीके से आश्वासन देने कि भले ही आप लीज पे दे रहे हो आपका जमीन सुरक्षित है। और जो लोग जमीन लीज पे दे रहे हैं उन पे किसी भी तरह की पाबंदी नहीं है, लेकिन कुछ सोचना चाहिए कि क्या उनपे भी कुछ पाबंदी रखा जा सकता है। मान के चलिए मैं अपना जमीन लीज पे दे रहा हूं तो फिर मुझे फसल का ऋण नहीं लेना चाहिए क्योंकि मैं खेती नहीं कर रहा हूं अगर मैंने लीज पे दिया है। तो एक उदाहरण के तौर पे इस तरीके से उन्होंने कहा कि जो लीज पे दे रहे हैं हमें सोचना चाहिए कि क्या उनपे भी कुछ इस तरीके से उनको उनपे रिस्ट्रिक्शन हो। अगला उन्होंने कहा कि जो लीज पे ले रहे हैं उनके लिए कोई आइडेंटिटी टाइप कार्ड या उनको एक तरीके से पहचान पत्र इनके लिए कुछ सोचा नहीं इस कानून में। और इस कानून में कुछ खास ऐसा भी नहीं है कि जो लीज पे ले रहे हैं उनकी सुरक्षा के लिए, ताकि उनके हित के लिए कुछ खास प्रावधान नहीं है। और विकल्प के तौर पे कि ऐसा क्या हम कर सकते हैं कि जो किसान लीज पे लेके जो वास्तव में जो खेती कर रहे हैं उनके लिए हम ऐसे क्या योजना कर सकते हैं। तो उसके लिए उन्होंने कहा कि अलग अलग जगह के लिए हो सकता है कि अलग अलग तरीके के हल हमें ढूंढना चाहिए। और ये हल ऐसे भी हो सकते हैं कि अभी भी जो लीज को लेके जो कानून है उनके रहते हुए भी हम शायद कुछ ऐसे हल का सोच सकते हैं कि वो कानून भी रहे लेकिन उसके बाद भी जो किसान लीज पे ले रहे हैं उनके फायदे का भी कुछ योजना किया जाए। कुछ चीज उन्होंने कहा जो सोचा जा सकता है। एक तो जो किसान लीज पे खेती कर रहे हैं उनके लिए ऋण मिलने के लिए हम सोच सकते हैं कि उसके लिए कुछ बजट बने, एक फंड बने, उनको कम इंटरेस्ट पे, कम ब्याज पे उनको ऋण मिले। या जो सरकार की तरफ से योजना है किसानों के लिए वो इनके लिए भी लागू हो जो लीज पे लेके कर रहे हैं। और एक उनका सुझाव था कि जितने लीज का जो रजिस्ट्रेशन जब हो रहा है उसको जो जमीन का कागज है, जो पट्टा है या कचरा नंबर वगैरह है, उससे हम लिंक ना करें। और बिना उससे लिंक किए हुए हम सोच सकते हैं कि एक परिवार के तौर पे अगर वो परिवार खेती में जुड़ा है, खेती से जुड़ा है और लीज पे लेके कर रहे हैं तो परिवार के तौर पे उनको फायदा मिले। उस फायदे को किसी कागज जो जमीन का कागज से लिंक ना करते हुए ऐसे हम सोच सकते हैं किसी स्कीम का। दूसरा उन्होंने सुझाव दिया जैसे कुडुम्बश्री में भी हमने देखा उदाहरण कि एक सामूहिक तरीके से अगर लीज पे दें तो फिर जो लीज पे दे रहे हैं उनको कम डर लगेगा कि ये जमीन मेरे हाथ से चला जाएगा। तो सामूहिक खेती एक विकल्प हो सकता है आगे ऐसे किसानों के लिए। और आखिर में उन्होंने ये कहा कि जब इस पूरे मुद्दे को समझने के लिए केंद्र की तरफ से अलग अलग स्टडी होते हैं, अध्ययन होता है, शोध होता है, तो उसमें जो किसान लीज पे खेती कर रहे हैं उनके बारे में अलग से सोचना चाहिए और उनके बारे में अलग स्टडी भी होना चाहिए। नहीं तो जो आमतौर पे किसान और खेती कृषि के ऊपर जो स्टडी होते हैं उसमें कई बार इनके बारे में इतना पता नहीं चलता है। तो इसके लिए कविता जी को मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा। और अभी हम थोड़ा चर्चा की तरफ बढ़ते हैं क्योंकि हम चाहते हैं कि और जगह से भी हम आवाज सुने। तो अविकता है, अविक साहा जी हैं, वो जय किसान आंदोलन से जुड़े हैं और कविता जी भी जिक्र कर रहे थे कि बंगाल में एक स्कीम है। तो मैं उनसे निवेदन करूंगा कि वो थोड़ा बंगाल के संदर्भ में बताएं कि वहाँ क्या चल रहा है। अविक साहब।
Thank you, Nachiket bhai. I will speak in English. Perhaps you can do a quick translation. You see, Bengal perhaps is the epicenter of this problem that we are discussing today. in simple words, all we are saying is, if there is a farmer, then he should be entitled to the entitlements that every other farmer gets. If you start from that basic, simple premise, then you ask yourself, if someone is taking a land on lease and farming, how does he not become a farmer? The answer is always, it is absurd to say that he's not a farmer. He is a farmer. So, you see, I was just getting ready for this meeting, and I did some back research. So this whole business of tenant farmer, the earliest legislation on this is in 1950. There is the West Bengal Bargadar Act of 1950. And just to tell you what it says, it's an act to provide for regulation of certain rights interse between Bargadars, who are lessees, and owners by way of constitution inter alia of a Bhag Chash Conciliation Board. So that act created that legal ground where a landowner and his tenant farmer, if they had a dispute, and I request you to consider the word conciliation. The word conciliation was used in a law in 1950. In real life, the act did not work well. It worked only for the landlords. And at that point of time, it was more, the sharing, the lease was more in terms of kind payment. Basically, a landless person or a person who took someone else's land to cultivate would give a share of the crop. And Bengal politics from 1950 till 2021 has emerged on the basis of sharing of crop, and everybody here must be knowing of Operation Barga, which came when the left front government came in 77. And this whole problem with tenant farmer emerges because it is perceived through the lens of the disputes or the rights interse between the landowner and the tenant. I heard Kavitha very carefully, and she has actually covered the points which I wanted to bring, which is that, look, the problem today is not about the relationship between the owner and the tenant. We are discussing tenant farmers today, whereas this system has been in place for more than 10 years. I took land on lease 10 years ago. There was no problem with the person from whom I took lease. So the problem is not what it was in 1950, about the sharing, about their rights interse. And progressively in 55 there was the Zamindari Abolition Act, and in Bengal there was this Land Reforms Act, which many states, including Kerala, also adopted and followed. So all this was for a distribution of land where the landowner became very apprehensive about the tenant farmer. But those days are behind us, if I may say so. Today, the only question is, as Kavitha rightly put it, is there a class of people, a large class of people, who are taking land on rent, which is mostly money rent, and acting as cultivators? The answer is yes. If there is such a large class of people, should they be invisible? The answer is no. If they are to be made visible, the only way is to enact a law that recognizes that they exist. Every class of people in this country, every profession is recognized because it is in an act, it's recognized by law. So you have chartered accountants, there is a recognized act. You have lawyers, there is a recognized act. But you have tenant farmers, and there is no law which recognizes them as tenant farmers. That is the first thing to do. And that process of recognizing, enlisting, and identifying and issuing identity documents is the starting point. If we club all the problems facing tenant farming in one thought process, it will seem insurmountable. So this is my first proposal, vis-a-vis Bengal. I have looked at the 2011 AP Act, the 2019 AP Act, the Niti Aayog model leasing thing. Yes, that also brings me to one point which Meera had put in the chat box, it's very clear. Agricultural land is a state subject. The more you keep the center away, especially this central government away from agriculture and agricultural land, the happier everyone will be in the final analysis. So my question is, other than AP, which has an act which is, I don't know why they amended the 2011 again, but for a moment, let's keep AP out. Should we not ask all 28 state governments, many of which are opposition ruled, why you don't have an act? Should I not ask Bengal Chief Minister why there is no act? It is approximately now 40% because many people are now exiting farming, not just because they've got jobs. There are many socio-economic schemes and these, contract jobs. Police, civic volunteer, 6,000 rupees, this volunteer, 8,000 rupees. So anybody who's, past class 12 and has political connections, lives in a village, is moving towards those jobs, even if they pay less, and moving away from farming. So yesterday night I was in a village, and 40% of the farmers of that village, we had a meeting with about 30, 35 people. 40% was the number of people who were actually cultivating someone else's land. And some of them do have their little bit of land of their own. Many of them have no other, they could not get the civic volunteer jobs. So they still stay in agriculture. They are producing the food grains that we consume, and they are invisible. So the West Bengal government needs to make this law to visibilize them. Second is, it's not a question of the disputes between the owner and the tenant farmer. There is very little dispute. The question is about entitlement. So identification and entitlement should be the focus of the state law. And once a state law is created, like it was created, let's say for the Rythu Bandhu scheme, once Telangana came up with a state law, everyone, including Mr. Modi, copied it, used it. Kalia, everybody wanted to do a little better. There's Kalia, there is Krishak Bandhu in Bengal. So when a good state law is made, any one state makes it, others are compelled to copy it, because this is now a very large class. And this is what we are trying to do with the state government of Bengal. We are using these laws, including the Niti Aayog law, but keeping focus that these are the only two things. There is a chapter, there is going to be a chapter on dispute resolution, intercy between the landowner and the tenant, but that should not be the focus of the act. The preamble of the act should not say that this is a law to provide for a regulation intercy between the rights of landowners and tenants. That's where the problem is. And let me tell you, no landowner is unhappy about a tenant farmer getting a KCC card or a KCC loan or subsidized fertilizer or subsidized seeds. They don't care. This is not any area of dispute between them and their tenant. The only dispute is whether I'm getting the rent in time and whether this person is going and recording his name somewhere on a formal government document where I am shown as the owner. These two fears have to be carefully, sensibly allayed, because landholdings have also gone down. We are not talking about the people with hundreds of acres of land anymore in most of the country. So this law in Bengal is under preparation. It is taking a little time, but I do imagine by January there will be a draft law. I will take help from some colleagues who are here in this meeting, and the Bengal government is more likely to be responsive to this. That's my political sense. And if they are, then perhaps we can come up with this Bengal model law, which can then, we can do it collectively, and then we can, pass it on to the other states and compel them. This now requires a very large movement based on a draft legislation, as we did for the, the price and the loan waiver at the central level. So that's what's happening in Bengal. It's a large issue. It's a large problem, which I presume is everywhere. And in Kerala, my personal experience is it's also a very, very large problem. I don't know whether the group farming will help at all. When two brothers live in the same house and share a same kitchen, I don't know how much group farming will work or tends to work.
Oh, it's working very well, Abhigda. There are academic studies which show that women's group farming is more profitable than family farming from Kerala. Anyways, Nachiket, over to you.
I'm sure. I do have, staying in the villages and meeting a lot of people. I don't see that great cooperation anymore because society has changed. That's all I'm saying. But if it works, it's excellent. If it's a good idea. Thank you, Nachiket.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry, just because of time, I'm having to keep reminding people. I apologize. Before I just very briefly translate, I just want to ask people, whoever would like to make any comments or have any questions, to please raise their hands through the Zoom facility. At the bottom, you will see 3 buttons, and from there, through reactions, you can raise your hand so that we will know if anyone has any comments to make or any questions to ask. ये अविग्धा का ने जो बात रखी उसके अनुवाद करने से पहले, yes.
Nachiket, no, just before you begin the translation, just one quick thing on what Avigdha had said towards the end about Rythu Bandhu. See, basically, just a clarification that the Rythu Bandhu scheme is only a scheme and there's no law actually over there in Telangana. And also that the Rythu Bandhu thing explicitly excludes tenant farmers. So that certainly should not be a model for anywhere. But just wanted to place that on.
Yeah. Thank you, Kiran. तो अविग्धा ने जो कहा उसका संक्षेप में अनुवाद करने से पहले मैं जस्ट कहना चाहूंगा कि यहाँ जो जूम में अभी तक हमारे साथ लोग जुड़े हैं, उनको अगर कोई अपना सवाल रखना है या अपनी बात रखनी है तो जूम में जो फैसिलिटी है हाथ ऊपर करने का, आपके स्क्रीन में नीचे 3 बटन दिखेंगे और वहां से आपका रिएक्शन में एक ऑप्शन मिलेगा आपको हाथ ऊपर करने का। तो आप हाथ ऊपर करेंगे तो पता चलेगा कि आपको कोई बात करनी है। संक्षेप में अनुवाद करता हूँ। सबसे पहले उन्होंने कहा कि बंगाल में काफी गंभीर समस्या है ये लीज पे लेके खेती करने का, और 1950 में सबसे पहले कानून बना, और लेकिन वो जो कानून बना जिनके नाम पे जमीन है जो लीज पे दे रहे थे, ज्यादातर उनके हित में ही उस कानून से उनको ही ज्यादा फायदा मिला, और तब ज्यादा बटाईदार खेती होती थी और जो अनाज था वो अनाज को बांटने का एक प्रावधान था या उसके हिसाब से लीज पे दिया जाता था। अब ज्यादातर पैसे को लेके है, तो एक तरीके से किराया होता है, एक अमाउंट होता है जो तय करते हैं कि इतना सीजन का होगा या महीने का होगा, साल का होगा, जैसे भी हो, लेकिन पहले अनाज को लेके था, अब पैसे को लेके है। और 1950 के कानून के बाद भी अलग अलग कानून आए, और उन कानूनों से ज्यादातर जिनके नाम पे जमीन था उनको ज्यादा डर लगने लगा कि अगर हम लीज पे देंगे तो हो सकता है कि जमीन पे हमारा हक चला जाए। तो अब क्या करना है, इसके लिए अविग्धा का ये कहना था कि सबसे पहले तो हमें पहचानना चाहिए कि ऐसे भी किसान हैं जो लीज पे लेके खेती कर रहे हैं, और सबसे पहले पहचान पत्र देना चाहिए। तो जैसे अलग अलग अगर डॉक्टर हैं या लॉयर हैं या अलग अलग पेशे के जो लोग हैं उन सबका एक तरीके से पहचान होता है सरकार की तरफ से, तो वैसे ही जो किसान लीज पे खेती कर रहे हैं उनकी भी एक पहचान पत्र बनना चाहिए। और पहचान बनने के बाद सरकार की तरफ से जो लाभ है या उनके कुछ हक भी होने चाहिए, और सरकार की तरफ से जो स्कीम है उसका फायदा ऐसे किसान को भी मिलना चाहिए जो लीज पे लेके खेती कर रहे हैं। और उनका ये भी कहना था कि ज्यादातर इसको लेके कुछ खास बड़ा दिक्कत जो लीज पे दे रहे हैं उनको भी इस पे कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी कि जो लीज पे ले रहे हैं उनका केसीसी बने, उनको अलग अलग सरकारी योजना से फायदा मिले, तो इससे जो लीज पे दे रहे हैं उनको भी इससे कुछ खास दिक्कत नहीं होगी, तो ये कोई समस्या नहीं होना चाहिए। और उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि एक राज्य का मुद्दा है, तो इसके लिए जो भी कानून बनेंगे, जैसे बंगाल में भी एक कानून बनाने की बात चल रही है, तो ऐसे कानून राज्यों को ही बनाना चाहिए क्योंकि ये राज्य का मुद्दा है और केंद्र को इसमें दखलंदाजी नहीं करना चाहिए। और हम सबको मांग करनी चाहिए अपने अपने राज्यों से कि वो ऐसे एक कानून पास करें। और उन्होंने बस ताकि बंगाल का थोड़ा परिस्थिति पता चले, वो कह रहे थे कि कल वो एक गांव में मीटिंग कर रहे थे जहाँ 35-40 लोग थे, और उसमें से लगभग 40% ऐसे थे जो जमीन को किराए पे लेके खेती कर रहे थे। तो मोटा मोटा जो अविग्धा ने बात रखी वो ये था। अभी तो 4 लोग हैं जिन्होंने अपना हाथ ऊपर किया है, तो मैं एक एक करके उनको आमंत्रित करूंगा अपना बात रखने के लिए। जो होस्ट हैं मैं उनसे निवेदन करूंगा कि वे इनको को होस्ट बनाए या उनको परमिशन दे अपना माइक और कैमरा को चालू करने का। तो सबसे पहले वासवी जी, आई इनवाइट यू टू फर्स्ट स्पीक. Please share your comments or questions.
Yeah. Thank you to the team that has organized this very interesting and important session. I have 2 queries or questions. One is, I think all the key speakers have highlighted not only the problems, that the problem is tenancy and not the tenants. But I was wondering if you could come out with a very different framework, only because as Kavitha has very well reiterated, that to get to collective farming, especially sustainable collective farming, we might have to build on these kind of structures. So we know that from experience, and what we're seeing is from small to marginal to large farmers, there's lots of not only hesitance but resistance against group farming itself, or even coming into FPOs. So I think what I understood from Ram Prasad Singh's presentation, they had mobilized tenant farmers, and Kudumbashree is also based on landless farmers. So there are 2 good examples to show how either landlessness or being fully tenants forces them or lends themselves to come into these group or collective farming. So that is my question. Can we consider a different kind of framework to position tenants and tenancy? Second question is a little bit of caution, because as you noted from Kiran, when you showed the data, regions like Karnataka and Maharashtra have lower proportion of tenants, agricultural tenants, mostly because of the land reform acts. But what these regions which are also more commercialized, where commercial capitalist agricultures come in, there is reverse tenancy. So what we saw with the Niti Aayog bill actually enables these large capitalist farmers who have also become tenants, who are mopping up, aggregating other people's lands, to facilitate them to actually aggregate even more land. So should we not be cautious about reverse tenancy? These are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What we will do is I will give everyone a chance to either share their comments or their questions, and I'll also read out a few that we have got from social media, Facebook, YouTube, etc. And then maybe very quickly do one final round of comments where speakers can respond to whatever questions they have or what they've heard from other speakers. Now, Ashok Kumar ji, I invite you to please share your comments. अशोक कुमार जी, अगर आप अपनी बात रख सकते हैं, रखेंगे, या कोई सवाल है तो सवाल पूछ सकते हैं अनम्यूट करके.
Thank you. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Thank you so much, friend, and really enriching discussion, and really last speaker also, Vedika also, listening wonderful things and about this pertinent issue. 2 small things I want to bring, because basically I'm from Odisha. I have been working in West Bengal for more than a decade now. And I don't know, this is a comment and this is a question also. When we see about legitimizing or identifying the sharecropper, the model says that there is a role of PRIs into it. So far, the experience says that PRIs are now, I mean, even if in West Bengal also, in Odisha also, PRIs, they are the powerhouse of political party to intensify their political interest, where people really really vulnerable to access and get through the services until unless you are favoring to the political party in power. So that's a caution there. How we think of, how we think of to mitigate this issue when we are talking about this role of PRI in recognizing a tenant farmer. That is one. Second one is small one is about, we have been talking about women as a farmer, identification of women as a farmer. And so while we are talking about this tenant farm also, what kind of model we are thinking where women also being recognized as a farmer, a tenant farmer or leasing. And the last one is about when you are talking about this pertinent issue, there are a large chunk of millions of people doing this fisher community are there. They also do the lease. The mostly the scenario is the same. Those and when we are talking about this, can you think of also that fisher community? That's it basically from my side. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ashok Kumar ji. Now I invite हरपाल सिंह जी, अगर आप अनम्यूट करके अपनी बात रख सकते हैं. हरपाल सिंह जी, yes.
हाँ जी. Am I audible?
हाँ जी, yes.
You see, this is a complex thing. I'm an organic farmer since '92. The problem lies with the policies of the government. It's all political oriented, and everybody stereotypically say big farmer, small farmer, without mentioning the parameter of big farmer or small farmer, and without mentioning how much land should a person have to make it viable. That's never mentioned. And that's one of the basic things. And my basic question is, if C2 plus, whatever the Swaminathan Commission is implemented, you think still there will be problems in the farming? And why isn't it being implemented, and why MSP is not being implemented? Why isn't being made a law? And coming to the, you see, cotton farmers, has anybody studied the root of BT cotton? Because I know what it is. I'm from a cotton farming session, and when this BT cotton was brought in, I was part of that meeting, and I objected to it. Nobody listened to me at that time. They have cut the perennial root of the BT cotton. Cotton is a Sanskrit word. Cotton isko katna hai. It's not an English word at all. Because the root, the perennial goes deep into it, and the see, where is cotton sown? Where is the arid, semi-arid zone?
No, but let us stick to the issue of tenancy for today, and not. We are all very interested in opposing GM cotton, but let us stick to issue of tenancy today.
Yeah, it's the tenants which are dying because of sowing that cotton, even in my area. So that's the question. If you restrict it now, I've talked to the cotton scientists, even they don't know what is the root structure of the BT cotton, vice versa, the normal cotton. So I don't know what they are discussing. My question is, if the Swaminathan Commission is implemented, you think still the farmers will not come back to their land and start cultivating their land? Will there be same problems, whatever we are facing today and talking in so many webinars?
Yeah, so the question has been noted, and I'm sure
I have already written so many questions on the chat box which have been deleted. Please kindly answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I call upon Mr. Ravi Kaniganti. Yes.
नमस्ते. मेरा दो सवाल है. एक कुटुंबश्री के JLG ग्रुप्स को अभी कुछ लोन्स वगैरह दे रहे बैंक की तरफ से, वो क्रॉप लोन्स जैसा दिखा सकते हैं, नहीं तो वो इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन कुछ मिलेगा वो ग्रुप्स को भी क्रॉप लोन्स जैसा सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट थोड़ा इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन देता है. हमारा तेलंगाना आंध्र प्रदेश में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन ऐड करते हैं, उसको 0% इंटरेस्ट देते हैं क्रॉप लोन्स के लिए. ऐसा कुटुंबश्री ग्रुप्स को अभी इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन मिलेगा? एक क्वेश्चन है मेरे को तरफ से. दूसरा, अगर ज्यादा लैंड लेने में कोई कहाँ भी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस है, अब रिवर्स टेनेंस के बारे में भी अपन बात करना है. अगर छोटा सा लैंड से वुमेन ग्रुप्स अगर ऐसा लैंड लेके कल्टीवेट करते हैं, लेकिन ज्यादा से ज्यादा लैंड लेने के लिए किसी स्टेट में भी ऐसा रिस्ट्रिक्शंस कुछ है नहीं? कोई भी अभी कॉर्पोरेट्स कंपनीज, एग्री बिजनेस कंपनीज ज्यादा लैंड लेके लीज पे कल्टीवेशन कर रहे हैं? ये दो प्रश्न मेरा है.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you very much. अरुंधति जी, अरुंधति जेना, if you can please unmute. आप अनम्यूट करके अपना, हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
मेरा ये कहना है कि जो
आपकी आवाज बहुत हल्का आ रही है, आप थोड़ा जोर से बोल सकते हैं?
हाँ, जो क्रॉप लॉस का जो शेयर क्रॉपर को तो उड़ीसा में है उसका प्रोविजन, क्रॉप लॉस, क्रॉप डैमेज या क्रॉप लॉस का जो कंपेंसेशन है. तो और फिर और जो बलराम स्कीम है उसमें भी वो शेयर क्रॉपर को भी वो सर्टिफिकेट मिलता है.
ये 2 सवाल थे आपके, यही थे?
नहीं,
नहीं मिलता है, आप पूछ रहे हैं या
प्रोवाइडिंग इंफॉर्मेशन?
आप कह रहे हैं कि मिलता है या आप पूछ रहे हैं?
हाँ, नहीं, आई एम प्रोवाइडिंग द इंफॉर्मेशन दैट टू हाँ, ऑल्सो जेएलजी को भी वो जो क्रेडिट वगैरह वो बैंक का वो भी हो सकता है. अभी हो रहा है कुछ ज्यादा. हाँ, ब्लॉक लेवल में तो बहुत सारे अभी चल रहा है, बहुत सारे ग्रुप्स को मिला है अभी.
अरुंधति जी, आपका परिचय अगर देंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा.
मैं उड़ीसा गवर्नमेंट में काम करती हूँ, रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट में. मैं फाइनेंस का ऑफिस हूँ, उड़ीसा फाइनेंस सर्विस में.
ओके,
थैंक यू, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ये जानकारी देने के लिए. अभी मैं गुरुकिरत जी को आमंत्रण देना चाहूंगा कि वो अनम्यूट करके अपनी बात रखें. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for all the speakers for the presentations. My question is regarding so like I want to know more about the dichotomy in the way in which politicians and bureaucrats perceive when it comes to the issue of identifying tenancy in DBT schemes, because is political interest almost synonymous with the interest of the bureaucracy? And I'm also asking this question because some of the speakers have hinted at the fact that an increased role of frontline bureaucracy towards identifying and verification is better than centralized bureaucratic regularities around arranging for signatories from the landowning families and the landowner farmers at large. So if any of you can talk more about that, like how is tenancy inclusion perceived by bureaucracy, or particularly frontline bureaucracy? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gurukirat. There is no one else who has raised their hand in Zoom, so I'll just also quickly read out some questions we have got from social media, and there have also been a lot of questions in the Zoom chat box, so I also request the speakers to go through that. What we have got from YouTube and Facebook, there is Chakradhar B, who says that according to estimates, only 3.4% of tenant farmers are receiving Rythu Bharosa benefits in AP. So this is just a comment and information he was sharing. Dinesh Abrol is asking, how common is sharecropping, or is it cash tenancy? He also was asking if more information can be shared on companies leasing land. And he was, basically about companies leasing land. So this question on how many tenant farmers versus landowners has come 2-3 times, so maybe someone can address that. And specifically for Renjini ji, there are questions related to if there's any restriction on lease rent amount in Kerala, who decides the rent, and how the banks are giving loans to groups, what is the guarantee for repayment. These are a couple of questions for Renjini ji. And then again, there's another question that says that they would like to know more about successful experience of women's group farming, and do you think perhaps the societal changes that the speaker mentioned will make this more needed? So these are just some questions we have got from social media. Maybe I'll invite speakers in the same order or maybe I can go in the reverse order. just so that they can respond. So maybe I'll go backwards this time and start with you, Kavitha.
So I find that on Dinesh's question, it's mostly cash lease based tenancy these days in states like Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Andhra, in Punjab, of course, Telangana. So I guess it depends on which state you're talking about, but I see a trend moving towards cash lease rent based tenancies, and that to me is linked to the kind of effort that goes into sharecropping also for a landowner, and the fact that you really are not sure about harvesting anything. The question about reverse tenancy by Vasavi, it is true that even for decades now, reverse tenancy has been the situation in states like Punjab more specifically than other states. And in any legalization effort, we can think of provisions which cap how much leasing in is allowed. If you had ceilings for land ownership, you can think of similar ceilings for leased-in land is also my sense. On fishers and leasing in of water bodies, from what I know, it is usually big players who, it's the panchayats which are supposed to do transparent auctioning. The leasing of water bodies happens through auction processes, from what I know. I'm not talking about private water bodies, but commons. And there, I think there's much scope to again support women's groups and others to lease in those water bodies, rather than allow that leasing process to go into the hands of big players. Lastly, I'll pick up that thing on women and do we see a large or good overlap between what we can ask for from the governments as a comprehensive package for tenant farmers, overlapping itself to support for women farmers? I certainly see a great deal of possibilities. And that is something which also has a good deal of overlap with natural farming and agroecology, I would say. We really have to see whether various elements that we have for a good future for farming can be collapsed into one comprehensive package that can be given to support viable farming for the most marginalized. And that to me is a possibility. I'll stop there, Nachiket.
Thank you. Now I invite Ms. Renjini to please share her closing remarks briefly.
Yeah, actually, with regard to the questions on the legal restrictions on the land means rent imposed by the landowner, actually there are no legal such kind of legal restrictions. Normally the landowner decides the amount and it is also based on the local situations of the area. And the main thing is that there is a basic understanding between the ward member, the panchayat representative, the JLGs and the landowner. That is a basic thing. And usually they do not charge that much, impose that kind of rent for this leased land. And some are also means providing only a small portion, wishes to means ask the JLGs to provide a small portion of the harvest. And in some cases, in most cases, the farmers, these landowners provide the lands to the JLGs to keep the land fertile throughout the year. So these are the cases. And with respect to the provision of bank loans, actually the JLGs are availing loans based on the recommendations of the CDS and ADS. And we are also having block coordinators working at the block level. They will also inspect the means area and also prepare the grading sheet for the JLG, and they out of 100 points, the JLG has to get 70 points. Then only they will be able to apply for the loans at the bank. So that kind of monitoring is there. So there is no issue with regard to the prompt repayment and related matters. We are able to ensure 99% of prompt repayment with regard to the JLG linkage program. And actually, hello, yeah, is it?
Yes, you're audible. Please carry on.
Yeah, and the Panchayat, the PRIs plays a major role in providing support to the women farmers. That is the main success of this kind of convergence activity. So we are also putting much effort for more initiatives in the initiatives for the market to address the demand from the market or from the field. That's all about the questions to me. I think I don't have any general comments also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and also thank you for joining. I think there has been a lot of interest from what I see in the comments and questions on the Kudumbashree program. So thank you very much for making time for us today. Ram Pratap ji?
Yes, Nachiket. I would only like to add one thing about the FPO experience, where some of the participants expressed a fear that there is a possibility of a monopolization of an FPO by one or a few farmers. So having gone through the process which the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has put in for incorporation of FPOs, that fear is not true, because the structure of the shareholding structure of an FPO is designed in such a way that the controlling stake remains with the partner farmers, which is to the tune of 70% plus. So even if somebody tries to colonize that space, it could be only to the extent of 30%, and rest 70% because partner farmers have this stake not only as shareholders but also in the governing council of the FPO. So that kind of colonization hopefully will not take place. That's what I wanted to add, and if there is any particular question you want me to take, I'll be very happy to answer that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Now I call upon Kiran, if you can share your closing comments.
Yeah, sure. There are some, 3-4 questions which I wanted to just refer to in answering. Regarding what Ashokji was saying about the PRI's political interests and so on. See, I think that in any process that we have, the local political interest would definitely come in. So the way of countering that would be to, for the local tenant farmers in this case, things like the ruling party, for example, does not recognize the tenant farmers belonging to, let's say, the other party, then that has to be done in an organized way to resist that. But ultimately, I think verification and inclusion is best if it happens at the local level. And often these local level political interests are also easier to overcome because there are other commonalities of interest also which are there, which go beyond the party thing. I think if what happens is if a very bureaucratic kind of a thing, I mean, when I say bureaucratic, what I mean is, for example, the way that it's been done in Andhra Pradesh, that you definitely require the signature of the landowner, and that is the way on paper you can have the consent of the landowner. Then that becomes much bigger roadblock to the recognition, rather than having a local process, which of course there is a political contestation which happens there, but there is a space for asserting your rights also. So I think that kind of a rights-based thing which has a local component is what would work best. And just connected to that, what Gurkirat was asking, whether, between politicians and bureaucracy. See, I think, I mean, there's often not that kind of a dichotomy. See, sometimes at the state level, what we find is that the political interests are often in favor of the landowners, and not really doing something out of the way which upsets the apple cart for the landowners. And this is what we find in many states. So therefore, the state level political leadership actually doesn't want to touch this issue. But on the other hand, when you talk to the bureaucrats, they are in favor of having a more rational system, which does ensure that it reaches the people who are really cultivating the land. However, at the local level, I think that there is no real dichotomy between political and bureaucratic interests. So if there's a political will at a state level to ensure the inclusion of tenant farmers, then I think the local level dynamics, either the local panchayat secretary or somebody may misbehave, or some local politician may create hurdles. All those things can be actually overcome at the local level. This is my sense. And another point I just wanted to make is that, see, basically, when I mean, with respect to what Kavitha was saying about a comprehensive solution, so from an ecological agriculture point of view, if you see, then maintaining soil fertility and the water resources and other things in the land becomes very important. But when the cultivators don't have a stake in that, in actually maintaining the land, because they're very insecure. So then actually that also goes against the interest of promoting ecological agriculture. So we need to look at it in a comprehensive way, that the cultivators should have incentive to that they have that kind of a security with respect to the land that they're cultivating, that it becomes in their interest to actually keep the soil fertility and other resources and so on. So therefore, something which actually marries all these things together is what is really required. And ultimately, I think that the lesson is that the government cannot take a hands-off approach to this whole question about who is cultivating, because in states like Telangana, where the chief minister has taken a very hands-off approach, saying that the government has nothing to do with what happens between the landowner and tenant farmer, that basically is the thing I think which we should collectively reject. And of course, locally specific solutions can be found, but the government has a fundamental role in identifying and including the cultivators, because ultimately, like I was saying, it is an information that is known to every person in the village. So something which is known to everybody at the local level, if it cannot be brought into some kind of a record, it could be as a certificate of cultivator, or it could be as a as a LEC card, or whatever it is, then that is really a failure of governance. So that is the point of view, I think, from which we need to look at this. So in that sense, it's a very solvable problem, but which is not being solved because of lack of political will and some kind of entrenched interest. So that's the reason why we need to raise a much stronger voice against this. And just one comment regarding what Vasavi was raising about being careful about reverse land lease. Definitely, I think that some constraints can be put on in terms of how much land anybody can possess in terms of leasing also. But I think the earlier approach, which is basically from the 1950s onwards, which sought to make land leasing itself illegal in order to prevent this kind of consolidation of land and so on, or land changing hands, I think is not viable in the current scenario. Because if we look at the marginal farmers, the current situation of agriculture is such that a 1 acre or a 2 acre farmer cannot sustain a family based on that land holding, cultivating that land holding. So necessarily they are actually looking out for land to lease. So it is in the interest of the marginal farmers that land leasing should be facilitated, and also based on that, the support system should be extended to them. So that's the way we should look at it. Somebody was also asking about what is the minimum land holding which is viable and so on. So I think the viable land holding, seems to be somewhere around 4 to 5 acres in the current economics, at least. I'm talking about minimum. So which means that most of the marginal farmers are looking for land to lease, and this is what is actually placing a pressure on the, which is pushing up the land lease rates and so on. So in that sense, landowners are sitting in a very pretty place. If they want to have a hands-off approach, they have many marginal farmers in their area who are ready to lease. And that is why it is the onus on the government to make sure that the justice is done to the cultivators. Thank you.
थैंक यू वेरी मच किरण, और हमारे सारे वक्ताओं को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आज जुड़ने के लिए, और जितने लोग जुड़े भी हैं सुनने के लिए आप सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you very much to all the speakers as well as all the participants who joined us. In case anyone has anything more to ask or to share, you can please send us an email at asha.kisanswaraj@gmail.com. Some people were also asking for the presentation, the Kudumbashree presentation from Kerala, that has been shared in the chat as well as uploaded in the Google Drive, and the link also has been shared in the chat. So thank you all very, very much for joining us today. We've gone about half an hour over time that we had initially planned. But thank you for sticking around till the end, and we hope that you will continue to engage with this issue, और आप अपने अपने राज्यों में इस मुद्दे को उठाते रहेंगे, और वहाँ जो किसान लीज पे खेती कर रहे हैं, बटाईदार किसान हैं, उनके मुद्दे पे आप काम करेंगे, और अपने अपने क्षेत्र पे भी इस मुद्दे पे चर्चा करेंगे और इस मुद्दे को उठाते रहेंगे. थैंक यू वेरी मच, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, एंड विल रैप दिस अप हियर. Good night.